Okay. All right. So I wish I was better prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Cultch in the house. How you doing, Cultch?
What's up? I'm here with the I don't know, a new look from my show, trying a different angle.
Oh, it's the same room. It's just not with the lighting.
Yeah,
Oh,
usually I'm here like right in the corner. That's the desk that I sit at, but usually the camera's going that way into the
I
corner.
like
So
it.
I decided, let me change it up a little bit, and I spent some time, and I don't know if I like it, maybe I'll switch it up. But it was a little bit of work, Joe. I don't know if I have this in me to do this every week.
Well,
To be
once you get the
honest.
lighting set up, I haven't changed the lighting in this room in like over a year. So,
But
other than
you
this,
get to keep your lighting static, like it's always there, so you don't have
yep.
to set it up. See, I have to throw everything in the closet when I get done and then put it out. Yeah.
Oh, you got to come
And
up
my
with something else, man.
Well, I mean, I got a kiddo who comes in here to play video games, so I can't really have him messing with my shit, to be honest. So that's why I
Very
do
cool.
it. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Hey, I put out a link for people to come in and challenge the first Herald, and we have a taker. It looks like.
Oh,
So
for real?
yeah, Coach, you cool with this?
Okay.
We
Yeah,
do a quick
bring them up.
conversation.
I'll
Yeah,
spectate.
we got Critical Hork coming on live here. I wasn't expecting anybody, but I'm glad that somebody came in. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Flip. Cool. Hey, Flip.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I guess I just don't know you. Have I met you before?
No.
Okay, I saw you commenting in the broadcast. So cool.
Yeah, no. I'm mostly here to see because I wanted to see what Risto had to say, but I don't know if he's coming on. I think he is.
Oh, cool. You want me to introduce you, Joe? I know Flip a little bit, although this is our
Yeah.
first time, I think, actually talking semi face to face.
I think so.
Yeah,
Tell me.
Flip's cool. He's ex-Mormon, and he's on a podcast with a couple other Exmos, Chris Hanna and Jared. They do the Porch Time podcast.
Yeah. Noodle time, apparently.
Yeah. Joe's
happening
getting
over here.
I kind of want noodles now.
I'm
Do you ever have those Indonesian instant noodles you get from the Chinese market? That's next level ramen. That's the stuff, the mee goreng. That's the way to go. It's spicy though. It's not for wimps. Those Indonesians
Spicy's
don't fuck
good.
around.
No.
These are noodles from a very exclusive Italian distributors called Great Value.
Oh Jesus.
And it's very, very, very rare. It's
Good
fine
Lord.
cuisine.
Oh man.
Hey, no, go ahead.
Because I mean, the thing I wanted to poke at you for was blankets and beanies for homeless people. But if Risto's coming on, he's going to be more interesting than me. But
oh, really?
Well, I think so. I don't know. He's a neat guy and he's thoughtful.
No, I mean really about the blankets and beanies. What poked your interest about that?
I've lived in downtown Salt Lake City for 15 years.
Really?
And let me tell you something. They don't need blankets. They've got blankets. They're covered in blankets. Another blanket is not going to be the key to fulfillment and transformation for the homeless population of downtown Salt Lake City.
No.
If you think that blankets and hats is going to help anything, you have as much faith as it takes to believe that Joseph saw God in the sacred grove.
Well, we definitely found a place of disagreement because I've been out there putting blankets around people for 3 weeks now, and it has been a transformative experience.
There's blankets available to them. There are warm beds. There are empty beds at the shelter every night. The shelter.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Which shelter are you talking about?
Take your pick. Because here's the critical thing about shelters. There's a couple of important rules at shelters.
All right.
They don't allow weapons and they don't allow drugs. And that's why they have empty beds every night. There's plenty of food for homeless people. There's plenty of help for homeless people. There's plenty of beds for homeless people. Drug addiction prevails over everything. And I have some personal stories about this. I have some broader data about it. But if you think that homelessness, I won't even say that. I'll put it this way. homelessness, chronic homelessness, is a function of policy and not poverty. It's absolutely
Oh.
about policy.
Okay. See, now we can at least get into something that we can agree on. So, but hey, we do have Risto out here. Let me go ahead and get Risto into the conversation, and then Cultch and I are going to introduce what we our coming to Zion thing. But I want to welcome Risto. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, he's got a beanie. He's not cold.
Yeah.
But he's also not addicted to powerful drugs.
And a coat like Joe.
Oh, wow.
You like that?
I like
we're match you. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cool, man. I got a hood on mine, but that's cool. It's not a competition.
Well, Flip says I'm not homeless, but my my kids accuse me of looking homeless today. So
Well, kids
I like
have high
to.
standards.
I tell my kids this. I tell my kids my hair. Like I have a brush for doing my hair right before I go live. But like otherwise, when I just do like impromptu videos, I don't have my brush with me. And I tell people, like, this is Autism Hair Day, and if you didn't get the notice, I'm not in charge of sending out the notices. So,
hey,
but
I
yeah.
I appreciated your sermon.
Hey, thank you. What did you like about it? If you don't mind my asking.
Yeah, I think it's a good value to challenge ourselves. It's always easier to challenge everyone outside of us, you know, their beliefs, their perspectives, their actions. But you know, when you talked about kind of turning it inward, I think it's good.
Cool. Thanks, man. I mean, I think, like, you know, I used to get into a lot of trouble about this when I was a missionary. When I was in Peru, I had started saying to some people, and then people had asked me, you know, what's your deal? You're so far away and you seem depressed, and, you know, lighten up, you know. And I would say, well, first of all, I've been depressed this whole time, but, you know, I mask fairly well enough that nobody notices. But I said, you know, I've been thinking about, you can't say that you think that you are right until you can really embrace the fact that you might be wrong. And let me tell you, you want to piss off some Mormon missionaries, you say that one to them. That's a line you I can't tell you how I got raked over the coals, turned into the president, got people writing letters about me. It's like, what is wrong with him?
Have you ever tried posing that exact same challenge to a feminist? Because I can tell you that the price I paid for questioning Mormonism was nothing compared to the price I paid for questioning feminism. But
Well,
also,
I mean,
questioning left-wing homeless activism. Both of those are in the same jar as far as just trying to get people to consider the possibility that they're wrong. Boy, oh boy, does the pushback come fast and hard.
I hope
including the social costs.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you will count this among the better part of that jar, because the guy you're talking to is both of those in that jar. I am a feminist. I am a leftist, and that's my personal belief.
Is it possible that you're wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
But now the question is, how? That's easy to say. It's a whole different thing to live it, right? And here we are having a conversation about it. So I like to think I live it. You know, I have this ex-Mormon atheist channel, and my first guest, since I started Church for Atheists, was one of my first guests, anyways, apart from people who are in the Church of Korihor, was Jacob Hansen. And I'm like, I said, look, guy, I'm here having the conversation. You can say that he didn't say, he was actually quite polite. I don't know if you saw it, but he was actually pretty polite, and I thought we had a really good conversation. Really good conversation happened after we stopped recording. But anyways, but I said, look, people can say that we're a cult, but how often do you see a cult leader interviewing people who are critical of him? That's not that
often.
Common. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't follow the right ones. I've never seen Keith Raniere.
I don't know. How old are you? I remember I watched live. Well, not live, but when Hinckley talked to Mike Wallace, I was watching 60 Minutes that Sunday night.
You think that was critical, though? I mean, Mike Wallace.
Yeah, you asked him if
Uh,
no, you asked him if Mormons believe they get their own planets, and Gordon Hinckley lied to his face. I watched it.
Oh, I don't remember that line, but I remember the line I remembered was about like they don't even drink. You don't even drink caffeinated soda, and then Hinckley said, "Right," and I went, "Oh,
Yeah.
they threw down the gauntlet with that one because that was back in the days when that was still controversial."
Because one thing is like, because like if we're talking about cults and throwing that word around, you got to remember Gordon Hinckley specifically was always a PR man, and the Mormon Church has been always very PR driven. But there's been plenty of cult leaders that are really happy to talk to people.
Yeah.
How about Charles Manson? Like, he'd talk to anybody any day.
That's true. I mean, and the Manson family was arguably larger than the Korihor argument, than the Church of Korihor at this point.
You'll get there.
But we're working
You'll
on
get
it.
there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're gonna get Scientology big, I think. But I think that's like it. I think that's like tops. Scientology big, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I don't want to kick you out,
50
but I
billion
want to
dollars.
make sure you get a chance to say what you want to say before Cultch and I get into Mitiga and his people.
What is
Well-
that? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
you're gonna learn
talked
about
about abortion a little bit in the comments. And
You are the guy.
yeah.
He's that
Okay.
guy.
You're the guy. Cool.
So
You set
I
it
mean,
up.
I don't
We'll
know
talk
what you
about it.
wanted to talk about it with. You can
Oh,
guide
okay.
the conversation if you want, but
Well, where we left off was, I mean, I think that we have a disagreement on abortion as policy and the morality. I don't speak to the policy side of it because I'm a spiritual leader, and one of our values is secularism, and we believe that religion should stay out of policy. So where I split that hair, because it is a hair to split, man, that's a knife's edge right there. What is morality and what is the policy? Is I look at it as, am I speaking to the way a law should be, or should be written, how it should be enforced, or who should be making it? If so, I feel like that's endorsing a policy or politicians. So, and I don't do that side, even though obviously I have opinions on that. The moral side is what we believe about it, what we believe as human beings is right and wrong. So the way where we had left off on it was that I had said that I mainly look at morality through a lens of consciousness and pessimism, right? And in pessimism, what I'm referring to there is like Arthur Schopenhauer style pessimism, philosophical pessimism, which is to say that I believe we need to look at our lives in terms of, we don't know that we exist before we are born. We don't know that we exist after we die. And so we'll go ahead and just start with this assumption. We probably don't. We don't exist apart from this existence. We can't go back in time so far, probably never going to happen, but we're always moving forward in time. And so pessimism is looking at life and realizing the great sum total of life's experience. If you could value pain and pleasure, it's going to land hard on the pain. It's going no matter what. And life is mainly suffering. And so Schopenhauer basically says, in his treatise on pessimism, that you have to be able to let go of the past because you can't change it. You got to be able to let it change you as much as it can. But if it doesn't change you and make you into a better person, let it go, because you can't go back and do it over. But most of the pain that you're going to experience in the remainder of your life, like the Stoics say, is not even in the things you experience. It's in the anxiety. It's in all of the things that you worry could happen, but aren't even going to happen. And so I look at that and say, my antinatalism, I am personally an antinatalist. I don't consider this a value of the Church of Korihor, but this is very much a part of my lens when I look at morality, is I look at it and say, if you are causing suffering to a conscious being, most of us are going to agree that's unethical. So bringing a child into the world to experience life is, as David Benatar, the guy who's probably most well-known for antinatalism, right, says that to bring a child into the world is the most unethical thing that we do. because we are creating suffering in a universe that didn't have to have any. So when I look at that and I say, okay, so by that logic, perhaps the most sacred act that a person does is to have an abortion, because then you decide we could have a future where there's more suffering, but I'm just going to decide I don't want to do that. And so to decide instead, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to create a suffering that didn't have to happen. One had better hope they have answers to the questions like, why did you bring me into this world? Why am I needed? Why am I here? And when we say, instead of saying, like, I got horny and I didn't have any money, so next thing I know, so many weeks, it's you. We had better, if we're doing something responsible with our bringing children into the world, it has to start with, you have a choice whether or not to have a child and whether or not to bring them into the world. And most of us are going to figure out too late in life that we were supposed to have a reason why. And creating a world where we would want them to live in and say, I thought I could bring you into this world and give you a better chance at a quality of life than I had. And you would have some joy. And maybe your joy would outnumber your pain. You'd be the first one, right? Maybe. But at the very least, it would be meaningful to me and meaningful enough that I would want you to be in the world. Even if the real answer is, I don't know, we got horny and we didn't believe in condoms. So that's where my morality on that question comes from.
Yeah, I think there's like tons of areas that I would poke at for that I would challenge with that perspective. But just as a fellow father, I don't know how old your kids are or anything, but I guess I'm both like surprised and not surprised that you say you're an antinatalist as a father.
Mm-hmm.
I think surprised because of just how wonderful it is to have kids and see life through their eyes and all those things, but also not surprised because as a dad, I realize like how shitty of a job I do and how much pain I bring into my own kids' lives, and that is like probably the biggest heartbreak in my, of my life. So I can like reflect and relate to that of like, that's heavy. But still, even when it's the heaviest, like I still think it's all worth it. Even though when I first had my kids, I certainly didn't appreciate what I was bringing them into this world. But I guess the question I would ask would be, one question I might ask is, if your assessment of the whole situation with the consciousness and at what point are we allowed to end their life? Like, if you're wrong about that stuff, like, what are the consequences of that for your worldview?
You mean if I'm wrong about whether or not there's an afterlife and whether or not there's like an antenatal life? No,
whether life is itself suffering and not worthwhile.
Well, no, like whether or not, like, because your assessment is like that there's a line that you even call it a virtue to end that developing life before they're born and out of the womb, right?
Right.
So if your assessment of that is off, like if you haven't considered a certain element of that philosophically or whatever, like what is the consequence of what's happening because of that?
So I would say that the only way to assess that is to conclude the possibility, which I think we have to admit at least the possibility that there is an objective morality. And if there is an objective morality, I am screwed 6 ways from Sunday because I do mostly things that an objective moral God would, and I don't see any plausibility of an objective morality without God. I'm one of maybe few atheists in the world who do believe that. But I believe exclusively in subjective morality. I'd be interested in a good case to be made for objective morality. I'm unconvinced so far of Sam Harris's, and if anybody's got a good one, I think Sam Harris does. I think it's good. I just don't think it's prevailing. So I would say that if we are creating our own morality, then we are the ones who are the only ones who decide whether or not life is worthwhile. See, I don't think that the case for antinatalism, especially David Benatar's style, is that life isn't worthwhile. It's that life is mainly suffering. So if we create our own subjective morality, including both subjective good as well as subjective bad, then we would have to say, from my lens, and teach to our children, who I do love my children. And to answer your question, they're between the ages of 18 and 10.
That's like my kids.
Okay, cool beans.
18 and 12.
Well, okay. Then we, when they ask us, why do I exist? You could lead in with the honest answer, but I try not to. But give them the answer that's going to give them the best shot at self-confidence and at feeling loved. And that is to say, look, I don't know that I really understood why we were bringing you into the world. Honestly, it was a bit of a surprise to me. Your mom says that we knew the whole time and planned it. I don't know about that. I don't know who that guy was, but it wasn't me. And I say, look, at the end of the day, I think I can do better by you than was done by me. And I didn't know who you were going to be, but I hoped that you were going to be someone I wouldn't want to live without once I met you. And now that you're here, that's you. I can say for certain, you are the most beautiful, wonderful people I know. And I'm not ashamed to admit, part of that is because half of my DNA is in every one of you. And but I have 3 children who are on the autism spectrum. And life is hard on the autism spectrum, as somebody who's lived in it his whole life, but only recently knew that, right?
Like this is, just to interject, because this is something that has driven me crazy for a long time. Because I qualify for being on the autism spectrum, but when I was a kid, when I was a kid, when you talked about someone who's autistic, you were talking about someone who could not function on their own, someone with severe issues. As far as I can tell now, autistic is synonymous with nerd, and that's not a sentence. It's just a personality type, and people are taking it way too damn far to say, "Well, I'm autistic, therefore nothing. Therefore, you have interests. Therefore, you're socially awkward. Therefore, it's just noise.
So more research. Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but
I made my point.
More research needs to be done, and more research has been coming out about the fact of how wrong everything we thought we knew about autism ever was. And it turns out
sociological research and
no, I'm talking scientific.
Well, no, okay, even so, like the replication crisis.
I don't know that one. I'm talking mainly about polyvagal theory.
Well, just Google the replication crisis, because when anybody's talking about research on human personality and stuff, good Lord, is that a mess? That's people want to pretend like that's reliable science. It ain't.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about neuroscience. But yeah, so the thing is that the more research that comes out, the more they come to realize that your observation there is actually fairly astute. What we once called nerd. I mean, you look at Sheldon on Big Bang Theory, right? You guys watch Big Bang Theory? Ever did? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine, cool.
I've heard of it. That's about it.
I'll be the one who's uncool. I like that show. I think it's funny. But Sheldon, whenever he talks, he doesn't get sarcasm right away, and he doesn't understand other people's emotions and things like that. Those are common traits that they've been able to scientifically show, not just in people with autism, what we traditionally call autism, but when we were kids, when I was a kid, was called Asperger's syndrome, which if I had actually been diagnosed, I probably would have been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And you can see it. You can see it in the brain, the parts of the brain that don't activate in the same way that they do with people who are neurotypical.
I mean, I take
But-
issue with the whole idea that is necessarily a detriment. I think
I didn't say it's detriment.
Well, that's the whole idea when people say, "Oh, I've got Asperger's." You're being diagnosed with something. Like, it's like being diagnosed with being friendly. So what? Like, that's just a personality type, you know?
Well, it's a developmental difference.
Well, yeah, but the point is that there are trade-offs to everything, and there's detriments to not getting sarcasm, and there's positives to not getting sarcasm, and to treat it as though, oh, that's a negative trait, or that's something that you would be better off not having. I don't buy that. I think
I agree with you.
Yeah, well, so then the whole business of diagnosing kids with this and saying, "Oh, this is a diagnosis of a personality disorder or whatever," that's not doing anything.
But it definitely, I mean, we want to provide our children.
I think it leads to learned helplessness more than anything, and gives people an excuse for bad behavior.
I think you're touching in on some very important parts of this. I do think that yes, that it does teach us learned helplessness, and which is a huge detriment. That definitely is a detriment to us. I mean, it's also a benefit. It's also a way that we protect ourselves. I don't want to rush you off and end this conversation, but we did have something planned.
All right.
But listen, I would love to have this conversation because you're actually getting onto some pretty good ideas here, and in spite of what impression I may have given you about me, I hope I've given you a good impression about me. I do like to have conversations with people who disagree with me so I can challenge myself and learn more.
Anybody can come on Porch Time. We don't
Yeah.
take money, and we're not a church.
Flip's a fair shooter, man. He's a good conversationalist, and he calls bullshit when he thinks he sees bullshit, and if you got a point, he's gonna say that you got a point. And that's part of the reason why I like listening to him.
Does the antinatalism thing, is that just a human affair, or does it extend to other mammals like my cat here?
It definitely extends to other animals.
Oh, wow.
So,
geez.
But
would
now,
you
mind
push
you,
the big red button? Would you push the big red button?
I didn't say.
And then humanity?
Bill Real would, right, Flip?
Yeah, Bill Real wants to push the big red button.
It's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to do a lot more thinking before I could say that.
Yeah, like I've always thought that I was just a miserable bastard, but I wouldn't push the big red button. As shitty as the world is, I think that humanity is at least neat.
Yeah,
but all right,
I wouldn't push.
I'll let you guys do your thing.
If there's a bastard, yeah. But it's nice meeting you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thursday nights, 8:00. See you.
All right. I'll see you about tomorrow. All right. Cool.
Flip and Risto are good guys. They definitely have their views on things, and they're open to talking about it, and they want to have that dialogue, and I think that's cool. And they were very respectful the whole time you were talking, Joe. They sat and they just listened, and that's good. That's what you want to have.
That. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool, man. I dig it. But and frankly, I got to have more conversations with people who disagree with me, who don't fall on the apologist side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Flip's definitely not an apologist, because he will call out church bullshit in a second.
So let's get started with a couple of things here. So, Cultch, tell me, what's your assessment of your brief description of who is Chief Mitiga David Taylor? And what are we going to take a look at today?
So you might be more familiar with this than I am, Joe, to be honest. I just know of David Taylor, Chief Mitiga, in passing. He started showing up on a lot of Mormon YouTube channels, and he's an indigenous person, right? He's from the Ojibwe tribe. And I think he claims to have some birch bark scrolls, which are, I don't know, supposedly scripture or something like that. I don't know if they have that right, but he almost sees himself as potentially a prophet, who's got work to do for the Mormon good. And a lot of Mormons who tend to be over here have kind of glommed onto that and really, really gotten into him. What would you say? That's a fair assessment? Help me out if I got things wrong.
So that yeah, no, that's a pretty good. So Chief Mitiga, he has a bit of a following. He has been referred to by his followers, so they will deny this now. And I don't think he has ever blatantly said this, that he's been referred to by some of his followers as the Davidic servant. A lot of his people, a lot of the Mormons believe, which by the way is what, as I understand it, Chad Daybell. I'll get called out if Megan Connor is over here. But that's basically like this is basically Chad Daybell thinking right here, and they're really going to be upset when they find out that I said that. But that's what's going on here. We got some Tom Harrison, Visions of Glory, Chad Daybell stuff going on, but instead of hopefully they're not doing anything like what Chad and Lori were doing.
Oh, please no.
Right? Leave those kids alone. Hey, teacher. And
that'd be a good parody song, Joe.
That would be a good parody
Hey,
song. We just came up with some Cultch.
There you go.
Leave those kids alone.
Leave those kids alone.
But the interesting thing about it is there's been a lot of challenges to, is he really Ojibwe? I take him at his word that he is. He's published his genealogy, and I think, I without short of a DNA test or something, I say take him at his word. He probably right.
Fair enough.
And number one, number two, I think that some indigenous communities. I learned this. Those of you who don't know, I had an interview earlier this week, and Cultch saw it right with Dr. Anton Troyer, who is an Ojibwe man who teaches Ojibwe language at Bemidji State University in Minnesota. And this man is like one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And this conversation we had was second to none. I mean, it was really amazing. But we talked about this, and he wrote down some notes. He'd never heard of Mitiga before, which is interesting because Mitiga does claim to be a chief of the Caribou clan. Adic, I'm going to mispronounce it. I'm not even going to try. The Caribou clan and the Ojibwe. and he does claim to believe that the Book of Mormon is true, and that the story of the Nephites and the Lamanites is contained in the history and teachings of the oral traditions of the Ojibwe. Well, Anton Troyer, when he started, he's an Ojibwe man, and he started studying the Ojibwe language after returning to the Great Lakes area after studying at Princeton, by the way. It's a bit all over my damn microphone. He went around collecting in Ojibwe the oral traditions of the elders in his community. I mean, if anybody knows the oral traditions of the Ojibwe, it's this guy. Yeah. And I asked him point blank, have you ever heard of a great peacemaker in the story that is Jesus Christ? He said no. He said more than that, but he said no. And I said, any traditions about the origins of your people or of any indigenous peoples come from the Middle East 2,600 years ago? None. I said, what about this red metal record, which is the thing that David Taylor or David Mitiga claims is going to be released in March or April? He said, never heard of it. I was like, okay, so there it goes. But the interesting thing, I said, look, I don't know if this guy, they have a term. I think you and I talked about this. I talked about it with somebody earlier today. There's a term I was acquainted with by watching Anton Troyer's videos. And I'm just going to use it because he uses it, and it's probably inappropriate. But there's a term that they use in indigenous culture called pretendian, which is people who are not really native, but think that it's cool. And so they pretend and they gather a following. And apparently it's shockingly common. And these people are effectively charlatans, just like we know with Joseph Smith and all these other people, right? They're just charlatans. And the thing is, as far as David Taylor, David Mitiga's beliefs, I say let him have his beliefs. I don't think anybody has a right to tell him what he believes. Right. And so I wouldn't go that far as to, I wouldn't even give it the time of day to criticize. It's that he tells other indigenous people, not only in the Ojibwe culture, but he tells my people, the Maya, the Aztecs, he's telling my people, the Sunni from New Mexico, he's telling these people from my ancestry what their origins are and that they need to come around and believe his version of their origin story. And that, I think, is cultural appropriation. I think it's wrong. So I call it out.
Yeah.
So, and he's welcome on the show.
He's just doing what any good Mormon would do, Joe. They would tell the people about their real history.
You're not wrong, Cultch. You're not freaking wrong. That's exactly right. So anyways, but we were having a little bit of fun because I had mentioned to you, and I've mentioned to some other people, that Zion Media, who are actually fairly personable guys when you contact them. I've only contacted them through the comments on YouTube. They were the guys who really got heavy into pushing his ideas, and that, they started organizing. They organized that Midwest conference with evidence of the Book of Mormon as having taken place in the Heartland. He's big. He's basically say a kind thing, Joe. Say a fair thing, if not a kind thing. This guy's like the new Joseph Smith of the Heartlander movement, and including that he has basically pushed Rod Meldrum out of that space, which is
for
big.
real? Because Rod was like the name in the Heartlander movement.
But then Mitiga published a video basically calling out Rod Meldrum as being dishonest and having, deceived him. And this has become kind of a thing with him. He is a fiery personality, which makes
I know
more
he
sense.
Threatens to sue lots of people if they talk badly about him, Joe. Just a heads up.
That's good. What do you know about that? Yeah, no, I've taken that into consideration before doing this.
I just know that there's been multiple people who have done episodes about him, and when he gets wind that these are happening, he starts saying he's going to sue people. I know it happened to Bill and Radio Free Mormon.
Yeah,
and Radio Free Mormon was just like, bring it on.
Right.
He's a lawyer
because he's an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an attorney.
When you throw around the lawyer thing, that gets people to back down sometimes.
It's interesting because the only interaction I've actually had with Mitigo was about lawyers. Not because we threatened to sue each other. No, I went on one of his videos and he was talking about how he got a letter from the church's attorneys. I told you the story. And I commented and I said, look, I don't particularly care for you and the things that you say. And I commented, I'm like, but if Curtin McConkie is sending you letters, then strangely enough, you and I are bros. I didn't say that word. I said something like, we're allies. I said. So I said, from somebody who's not an attorney, but who has worked for attorneys, because I work as an unlicensed and uncertified and uncertificated. So grateful that people still employ me part-time as a legal assistant. And I said, I would suggest that you contact an attorney in Utah, because I know you spend time in Missouri, and Missouri is one of the worst states to get sued in by somebody who has a lot of money, and the Mormon Church has a lot of money. And because they basically have nothing. They have an anti-SLAPP law, but it's like nothing. And I said, so basically in Utah, we now have anti-SLAPP laws. I don't know how well proven they have been, but we have this new anti-SLAPP law that just barely, like a little over a year ago, got passed. So basically you can go to court and say, this company has money. This entity has money. They know that I don't have money. They're only suing me to shut me up. And then the judge can toss it out and can decide, is this a SLAPP lawsuit? Is it a lawsuit just to shut you up? And if so, he can throw it out. And I said, so if I'm not giving legal advice, I'm not qualified to give legal advice. But if I were in your shoes, I would go and get an attorney in Utah, get them to answer, and see if you can keep this case in Utah or someplace else that has good anti-SLAPP laws. And he had responded to me. I don't know how to say it. I don't. Yeah, it wasn't very interactive, but it was clear to me he was getting advice from somebody, probably an attorney already. And so I was like, okay, if you have counsel, then I'm not worried for you. But he's been from what I understand, he has threatened to sue quite a few people, including Rise Zion, which is a completely different channel. He's interesting. I don't know if you ever watch Rise Zion.
He's the guy that's got the squishmallow right behind him.
I think he does have a squishmallow.
That little stuffed animal. Yeah.
Yeah. He's interesting. You know, I don't agree with him on things, but he's Mormon. But I don't feel like anything he said about Mitiga rose to a cease and desist letter, let alone a letter of intent to sue or a lawsuit. I'm like, okay, you know, you can go out there and claim to a whole cultures that your whole understanding of who you are ethnically as an ethnic group is BS and wrong. You need to convert to my way of thinking, but you can't take a little bit of somebody going, I don't know that this guy can talk for the prophet or whatever. You know, it's like, you know, if you can dole it out, you got to be able to take it, in my opinion. I hope I've proven that that's true about me. So anyways, we talked about this. The night before last night, they went live. And Cultch, Zion Media, they're fairly good guys from what I can tell. But I've been in their Discord for a couple of weeks now.
You told me about the Discord.
And it's insane. It's crazy. I mean, like, I know Mormons have weird beliefs. I used to be one. Okay. I used to have weird beliefs.
Yeah.
But let me show you. Dude, you know what? I was going to show you the video. I'm going to show you the Discord. Should we just go in there and look at it?
Let's do it. Yes, please.
Please, he says. You will regret that.
Pretty please. Is it crazier than Ward Radio's Discord? I don't know if you've been in there.
I have not been in there, but I have heard that is crazy. I've heard that's wild crazy.
I think another night maybe we'll have to take a journey into the Ward Radio Discord undercover and see what's doing there.
So this is the Discord. I'm not concerned because I don't like Discord, and they can get me kicked out of it. Kicked off of it if I've broken their terms of service. But basically, okay, so here's like their general group, and they're like posting all kinds of stuff. But basically, as far as I can tell, they basically get on every time that there's a live broadcast, and then they start talking and all kinds of things. Like here, I mean, like I haven't queued anything up, right? I'm just showing this. Okay, this is
you're just
from a couple days ago. 2 Samuel 8:14, Mentina Nemenha records, broken down into parts and interpreted. And then they start breaking it apart. Do you know about the Nemenha records, my man?
Never heard of it. No.
So like there's this man I know his name is Cloudpiler. I don't remember his government name. Maybe that's a good thing. But he basically took the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith translation style started filling in the gaps and called it a new translation, and they call it the Nemenha record. I haven't read it, but that's my understanding. I've read parts of it and I'm like, oh wow, I thought this book was boring before, but like he claims to have started Nemenha, which in the Book of Mormon there was this group that supposedly called themselves Nemenha, meaning I forget what it means. I think it's like the spiritual ones or the ones with the holy vision or something. The sacred group, and he's basically started what is effectively a church, and the Nemenha records are all over this Discord. People making mention of this. So
does he think of himself as like a prophet to be able to, translate and add to the Book of Mormon?
Yeah. Which is the thing that's wild about this. You look into this like visions of glory stuff and all this stuff. There's one thing I don't think any Mormons are willing to admit yet, which is Mormons are desperate for more scripture. Like they want the church to canonize more scripture, and the fact that they're not doing it is creating like this whole movement,
Well, you know what's weird, Joe? Like I don't know if it was the same for you growing up, but it was. The canon, the Mormon canon was what you had: Old Testament, New Testament, Pearl of Great Price, D&C, Book of Mormon. That was it. That's what you stuck to. Everyone wished we had the 116 pages, but nobody was reading the Apocrypha, and looking for these alternate texts. And now it's all the rage. I mean, there's one of the guys on Ward Radio, they call him Professor Apocrypha. And his
Right.
whole thing is like reading apocryphal writings and trying to use them to prove that the Book of Mormon is true. And it's like, what is this?
Right. Right. And his name is Jonah Barnes. And I'm saying that because he's been in my comments. He was in my comments where Richard Carrier is a professor and a scholar of New Testament history. And we laughed at Jonah Barnes for about the better part of an hour and a half together and watching his content. Had a great time. And Jonah commented and said, I love this. This is my favorite thing. I shared it with all my kids. And so I had like replied to him, like, I hope you did. And I hope you had a good time. I hope they laughed. I hope you guys, but he's like, but you did get everything that I said wrong. Oh, I'm sure I did. Come on the show. And I repeat that, Jonah, I want to know if I actually am wrong and I got your content wrong. But the thing is that Richard Carrier, did you watch that by any chance?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I sure did. Richard was laughing his ass off on that.
Because it was funny.
Yeah.
But the thing that was interesting is how many times he said, well, he's not wrong about that. And I'm like, right? What's surprising is how much they got right. And here are Richard and I, two guys with a minority opinion. We have a conspiracy theory. I'd still say it's not as silly as like people who believe that like the moon landings didn't happen and stuff like that. But I happen to think it's very plausible that there was no Jesus as a man, that Jesus started with a myth. I can't say that I prove it. Richard wrote probably the foremost peer-reviewed, I think the first and only peer-reviewed book on the subject. And even he says it can't be proven. So I'm not saying that it's proven. I'm just saying it's more plausible than most historians want to admit. And the Mormons are out here proving our case for us, and they don't even know it.
This is crazy, Joe. Like, as you scroll through, I'm like just reading random sentences, and I'm like, what in the hell are these people talking about?
Mm-hmm. This is, like this. We are spirits lowered in a body, recording a vision with the Creator. We chose to descend. The separation from God is an illusion. What?
I don't know. I mean, I saw a picture of Adam on Diamond earlier. I saw somebody posted about like foreordination.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what this is. Sean Little Bear reveals. There it is. Foreordination. I don't know. These people are like desperate for some spiritual scraps. So they're just like,
it's true. That's right.
Anything they can get.
I'm not crazy, right? Like these guys, they want something more. I mean, this is why, people who are surprised that Chad and Lori Daybell believe in, and these guys believe in reincarnation. I'm like, dude, they're
starving for this.
Yeah, they need something more. They're not getting enough out of the theology that Joseph Smith gave them. I got Flip Johnson back in. Go ahead.
That's more of a reflection on like how milquetoast the church is these days. That the most that they're going to get, like revelation wise, is 10 temples read off during general conference. Everything else is just recycled and it's old, and they're just desperate for something new and cool and interesting. Like Joseph Smith was doing when he was alive. Every week there'd be new shit.
That's
We're
right.
Baptizing dead people now. Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing.
Eternal marriage.
David Miniga just converted to the Bickertonite Church. You know about that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw Steve Pinecker broke that news.
Steve Pinecker talked about it. Yep, that's right. And it's interesting because, of course, there's been the accusation throwing around that these guys are all apostates. And the church, when the church starts actually giving a shit again, they're going to excommunicate the lot of these guys. It's like, I tell people all the time,
so.
like, how the hell is it that I got the letter? Where's my letter?
Of course, you're going to get it. Away. This is Joe's thing. Any chance he gets to show his excommunication letter.
Thank you, President Mitchell.
Is.
So it's interesting. But like I was going through this Discord, I'm trying to find it now. There's been so much that's been posted since I was looking at this earlier today. When I was looking at this earlier today, right? They had a string that they had started in this one called Latter-day Conspiracy. And it was all the theories this guy posted, maybe I can find it, about Elon Musk being the Antichrist. And did this?
How many people they got in that Discord server, Joe?
Oh, how could
Does
I
it say
tell?
anywhere how many members? I don't know if it does or not. I'm not a
I could probably
Discorder, so I don't
find
know
it.
how it works.
I'm not either, and that's why it's like, yeah. I'll look around. I'll poke around, see what I can find.
Okay.
Okay, so this person, whose last name is Lightbringer, I'm just realizing, didn't think of that. Isn't that like an Orson Scott Card thing? Isn't that like I think that's like
Could
a new
be.
character. Yeah, Orson Scott Card. That's a trip right there.
I only knew the Ender's Game stuff from him.
Right. Yeah, because he had this other series where, again, Mormons desperate for scripture. Basically, as I understand it, it's like the Book of Mormon in outer space, and like he's got a group of aliens. Oh, I'm saying I'm showing you this, and I'm not even showing you this. And basically, it's like he's got a group that are the Nephites and a group that are the Lamanites, and he's got basically a whole series of books because these people are desperate for more truth and knowledge from the Father, and he's not sending it. But I thought this was interesting. So the guy says, well, my chat GPT agrees it isn't Elon. So already we're off to a wicked great start.
Yeah.
This guy like, analyze his name and use the biblical excerpt that the name of the Antichrist is related to the number 666. Does Elon Musk match at all through numerology or any other way that he could be the Antichrist spoken of in Revelation? And then he gives this big answer from ChatGPT. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? He basically, you know about gematria, right?
No, I don't know what that is.
I keep asking you things that the answer should be no.
Just assume I know nothing, Joe.
Gematria is like Jesus numerology. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of conservative Mormons who are really into it. And in spite of the fact that, you know, your Orthodox Mormons are going to be the ones who are like anything like that is of the devil. This is all the devil. But Mormonism started by a guy who had a Mars knife, and his mom kept, you know, documents and maps and things that had like the names of like demons from like demonology on it. And, you know,
I mean, the occult was mixed into that stuff they were doing.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole tradition of the Book of Mormon, how they got it, you know, they didn't call it Moroni at the first, the guy that delivered it. They called him the heavenly messenger. And one
treasure guardian, essentially.
Yeah, right. In one passage, Joseph Smith even called him Nephi. And it's like, you know, this whole thing was like evolving. He's just making this up as he goes. But a lot of it was based in magic until people, you know, who knows exactly why. Maybe, you know, we'll get Dan Vogel on. Dan Vogel knows. If the answer, if the question is ever who knows, the answer is Dan Vogel.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it went from like magic to like, okay, now I got to grift off this and make it look serious and not as weird as it is. And
we assume. And yeah, I think you're right. I think that probably is it. How do I close this damn thing? I hate Discord.
Dan had mentioned that because, you know, when you were on, we were talking about the Stone in the Hat versus the Urim and Thummim. We watched a Word Radio episode, and Dan chimed in and left some comments, and he was just saying that, you know, they basically started using Urim and Thummim to make it look more legit, you know, less bizarre to people.
You mean
and it
that
coincided
they
with
using the interpreters,
calling the interpreters Urim and Thummim,
rather than
that didn't happen until a year after the whole Edie House stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, that's right. I did remember that. I didn't remember him saying that while you and I were on. Are you out there? Are you out there, Dan? You're welcome. Welcome in Discord.
No, Dan's East Coast. He's sleeping, man.
You're East Coast. You're not sleeping.
I know, but I'm young looking and have energy, Joe.
Did you hear that, Dan Vogel? Everybody, let's clip this
No,
out. Did you
Dan
hear
doesn't
that?
look old. I'm not saying
Coach,
Dan lacks
Coach
energy. I'm
thinks you're
saying
old, Dan.
no, Dan, not at all.
Come
I think
after
you're great.
him.
I'd actually like Dan to come on my show, but I'm on so late. I don't think he ever would. Part of the reason why I'll never get like Nemo or any of the Brit Vengers on, because it's
Yeah.
like 3 a.m. when I do my show.
He's apparently in Utah. I don't know if he's in Utah right now, but they've got like in the
going to
next
be.
couple weeks. Yeah.
He's
yeah.
going to
So
be.
maybe Nemo, you're gonna love you some Cultch. We all do.
I did.
Let's
I
look at some
chatted
more.
with Nemo the other day. I actually helped him. I gave him a couple clips to use in his last video.
That's cool. Okay. So anyways, I mean, a lot of this is just for fun, but basically this guy, he put out, he believes in gematria enough to believe that they might be able to tell them through numerology whether or not Elon Musk is the Antichrist, but he doesn't want to take the time to learn it. So he just farmed it up to AI.
Why do they think that Elon Musk is the Antichrist? Like where does that even come from to ask that question in the first place?
Let's find out.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people on social media who'd be happy to call him the Antichrist without any research at all, but these guys are
weird.
looking into it.
It's weird because, like, okay, I'm not trying to make a political comment. Megan says she'll go on your show, Cultch. That's cool.
Okay,
Megan Connor is rad.
Let's think of something cool to talk about. I whatever you're into, we can talk about.
But the oh yeah, Megan. I told Megan I went on her episode on Church for Atheists. I said we went this whole time without ever saying the name. Right there. Which people who know her channel will know what that means. Do you ever watch Megan's channel?
I've seen some. Yeah, I saw her. Yeah. She had John DeLynn on a little while ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's pretty big to get John to come on.
Right.
Good for her.
Big fish.
And I saw her on Mormon Stories with a bunch of folks, which was cool recently.
Let me do another search for Elon Musk. We'll find another one because there was a whole thread about why they thought that he's the Antichrist. Let's see here. In my opinion, the global economy this is a person named Aaron. In my opinion, the global economy has a 70-year economic problem. They followed suit with Egypt and King Harold. Population control started in Colorado with legal abortion in about the 1960s. I would say the 1995 proclamation was a solution to the problem and the proper roles for male and female. I think Spence W. Kimball, I didn't know they were on first name basis. Yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron. Tell Spence I'm sorry. Tried to preach that the women should come back home to raise their children. We need about 4 to 6 children per household to maintain economic growth. Ladies, that's a line you gotta throw ladies at the end of. It is just basic math. The last economic forum I went to in 2023 stated that there are only 5 states that have an economic future: Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Montana.
It's the Morador, of course. All the states with big Mormon populations.
Elon Musk. This is the reason why this even came up in this search. Elon Musk, rather you like him, or I think he means whether you like him or hate him, sees the same thing with his 10 plus children. I disagree with his many wives, but it is what it is, which is interesting. This video that we skipped over, Rob, maybe I should go back and show it to you. They get into dogging on Joseph Smith's polygamy, which is still just this monster that will not die. There's people who believe
this whole new movement of the polygamy deniers, like Michelle Stone's in it and Jacob Isbell is part of it, and that's a whole thing too. And I'm guessing there's crossover between those guys and Heartlander people. I don't know.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting because like they dog on those on polygamy deniers on Zion Media, but then they do raise lots of questions. Shane, who's the guy who runs it,
the guy that went to prison for a while.
Right. He was he did 5 years, I think. Don't at me, guys. I think he did 5 years in prison for basically a real estate Ponzi scheme. effectively.
That'll do
I'm
it.
not an attorney, but that's basically, swapping around the values of properties and, loans and things like that, I think, or investor money. I think it's investor money.
That'll get you.
And yeah. And so then they get in there, they start talking about, basically, he's apparently doing well for himself right now. And
good.
he's basically funding all of this, from what I can tell.
I believe in second chances, Joe. Let
Sure.
him rehabilitate, and he's doing this now, which is cool.
Is this rehabilitation? I don't know. This feels to me like more of the same, but okay.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I mean, it's a different kind of fraud, Joe.
It is.
And
I'll grant you that.
misleading people.
That's fair. This guy's one of the hosts of the shows, Trevor. He says, I think these are the watchers returning, assuming Elon Musk's post is a cryptic message related to extraterrestrial activity. Here's an interpretation of what he could be subtly conveying. And it's like this whole post.
What the hell is this? Now we're talking about aliens. We're talking about cryptic messages from Elon Musk, and then extraterrestrial shit. This is bizarre, man.
Warning or acknowledgement of a paradigm shift. The word entertainment might be used to downplay the gravity of the situation. And they're like picking.
Holy cow. Numbered point by point.
Yeah. Shit that Elon Musk said, like it's the word of God. It's bizarre.
This is like QAnon type stuff, Joe.
No, don't be careful with that term, but yes, you're not wrong. As a matter of fact, they were live the other night, and somebody said that. It's like, oh, I think it was that guy, Trevor. He's like, this feels like,
oh, they said the Q word.
Yeah, and then somebody else was like, no, it was somebody else. I think maybe it was Mitiga or Latter Day Chad, whatever. Anyways, and Trevor was the one who kicked back. He's like, don't say that word. It's a flag word. And I'm like, oh, I guess it probably is. Yeah, but anyways,
sorry to get you flagged.
No, we're good. I don't. If they didn't get me for this last Sunday's sermon, I think I'm probably in the clear.
You did.
We'll have to see.
An N word, but not the bad one.
N-word.
The other bad one.
The other one that's still bad, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another. But so here's another one. If this is indeed a veiled message about extraterrestrial life, Musk could be tactfully planting the idea that such occurrences might become part of our reality and that humanity needs to approach it with a balance of wonder and caution. And this is this tweet by Elon Musk. Success is uncertain, but entertainment is guaranteed. And then a picture of basically a meteor shower. Oh, I'm not even showing you. Damn it.
No.
I gotta get better at this. Yeah, this is what it looks like.
All right. And so they're just like, what does this mean? Let's write a 5-paragraph post about it.
It's a 7-word tweet. Yes, wow. It's called the tweet, Elon. But and it's got some hidden veiled message.
Wow. I mean, I get having hobbies, but could you imagine like this is what you're doing in your spare time? You're like trying to decipher Elon Musk's cryptic messages in his tweets.
Right. No, I can't. I don't want to yuck their yum, Joe, but this is weird stuff. That's a valid concern, but you're right. It is weird. So this is so I wanted to find there's a what do you even call these? Like a sub Discord. They got like secret combinations. This is all politics. Deuteronomist reforms. I haven't looked at this yet. Some guy at Latter Day Chad, which is an interesting character. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's like a regular on their show. He says, my reading of the Nemenha today. Remember I told you about the Nemenha records?
Yes.
Gave me a lot to think about regarding the divine feminine, which is a concept in Buddhism, separating for a time. This is from the book of the Tuhul Numen, which is from the book of Nemenha. And it's just these Mormons straight up reading apostasy, reading apostate literature. I'm
Are
sure
all
that's
these
not how they,
guys who are on here like still members of the church?
from what I can tell. Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I'm sure there are some who are not, but and some who are probably. I think the Bickertonites are probably hoping a lot of them are going to convert over to the Church of Jesus Christ now.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see here. Even Sherry Cardinal, the Ojibwe feminist, remained quiet in a meeting. This is by one of the regulars with a bunch of men. They were talking about how we need to respect women. Then she spoke up, and then links to this video. This is interesting because Sherry Cardinal has a pretty sacred role in this group, who continue to maintain that they're not a church. But if you ask me, they function just like a church.
I mean, they've got scripture, right?
They got organization that they're trying. It's not really well organized. Maybe we'll actually watch the video and we'll be able to go into that. But this woman, basically, she is like Chief Midiga's one of his spiritual directors of sorts, and she is a woman who was a therapist who lived among indigenous people, and then discovered, doing her genealogy, that she was indigenous herself, and then like got heavy into the culture and so I don't know much about how like her adoption or her inclusion into there, and I'm not trying to knock it, but no. she plays a big part in what a lot of these Heartlanders believe about Midiga.
Yeah, I mean, if you find out that's your genealogy, I can understand being interested in it and wanting to participate.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah. But I mean, but it's interesting because, like, again, they start picking apart things that people say, and it's like, oh, somebody posted a tweet, somebody did, it says here in this obscure, scripture from some other tradition, and it's like I said, these people they want more, and the church is not giving it to them because I don't think they know where they're going with it.
Well, the last time this sort of thing was going on that I know of, it was Denver Snuffer and his folks who were doing stuff like this, and they all got the axe church-wise.
They got it. Yeah. What do you think about that Denver Snuffer thing? Because I've been looking deeper into that lately.
I don't know. He seems like a interesting guy. There's actually a kid I grew up with in Tucson who he was John DeLynn did Mormon Stories with him years ago, where he talked about leaving the church and converting to the whole snuffer movement. This is a kid I went to high school with, and I was like, wow. And like smart guy.
Kids,
yeah.
Tucson kids. You're another
crazy,
breed, man.
We either go Exmo or we go full snuffer. There's no in between.
There's a kid from Mesa started a church for atheists. Weird.
Oh yeah, there is that. And this kid, he was married to Bruce R. McConkey's granddaughter. So like he was married into like Mormon royalty, and he still went apostate and went with the Snufferites.
Holy shit.
Took the daughter too. Yeah. She converted with him.
Nice. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I looked into Denver Snuffer because I've been working on a path to conversion for Corohorism. And I'm like, okay, let's look at how other people are doing it. And so I went over and I looked into this Denver Snuffer's like website and stuff. This is too close.
I think they baptism, right? They do baptism.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, but first you listen to 10. Basically, they have like 10 discussions that you watch as videos, which I approve. Definitely better than sending missionaries to your house. But you watch these 10 videos. But I started put together like a 3, maybe going to be 4 video series. But my videos are like 7.5 minutes long, right? We have we're going home. I'm putting together who is Korihor, and But you watch 10. You listen to 10 audio recordings mainly of him sermonizing about how Mormonism is true. Joseph Smith is a real prophet. Book of Mormon is true. It's the church that lost its way along the way. And each one of these sermons is like over an hour long. I'm like, good God. Just
10 hours of snuffer to join.
And he's
It's a
not
lot.
that interesting.
No, I've seen him on Mormonism Live a couple times when Bill and RFM have had him on, and I don't know, he just looks like an old dude.
Yeah. Well, I got into it also because these guys at Zion Media, maybe I'll show you them here in a minute. But here, let me pull this stop screen on this. I'm going to show you something else here. They were saying that they want to find somebody to debate Denver Snuffer about polygamy. I guess maybe he's a denier now. I don't know.
Oh, for Snuffer is?
I don't. That's what they seem to indicate. I'm like, I didn't know Denver Snuffer was a polygamy.
Well, they are
denier.
big Joseph Smith fans, so I could see how they would want to not have him associated with the whole Brigham polygamy stuff.
They're all Joseph Smith fans, but okay. But I mean, I feel like I trounced Jacob Isbell pretty solidly. No offense, Jacob, when you see this, if you see this, but I felt like my discussion with Jacob Isbell about the Nauvoo expositor over on Unfiltered Rise, I feel like I put this thing to bed, man. And so I went on there and I'm like, I am the first herald of the Church of Korihor. I will debate Denver Snuffer. I'll take on anyone. I'll repeat it here. I'll take on anybody who wants to do polygamy denialism, and I'll debate with anybody about it. I'll take them on. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm good, and I want to know if I'm wrong. But okay, so I wanted to show this. I want to show this to you. There's a link tree that they like to share around, and that they have in their YouTube. And one of the links goes to Cumorah, and Cumorah. They're working. I learned from this live a couple nights ago. They're actually developing a piece of software for people to be able to add documents into it. But for now, it's just a Google Drive folder.
Yeah.
So you work with the tech you've got here at the Church of Korihor. We're big believers in that. I just
so what's it supposed to be like? Anybody can say that they like received revelation and they can write it down and then they just add it to this document.
Well, I'm not sure what the process is for adding to it, but it's here. There's a lot of stuff here. Okay. Apocryphal writings. You click on this. We just talked about that, right? Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. Davidic. This one's called Davidic servant. This one's called Davidic servant.
And that's all about Midiga, right? If it's Davidic servant.
I don't know. I mean, I'll look at it. Please consider the following quote by President Russell M. Nelson during the recent General Conference in 2018. Our Savior and Redeemer Jesus Christ will perform some of his mightiest works between now and when he comes again. They do a lot of this talking about President Nelson dropped another hint that the second coming is happening. They've all been doing that.
I mean, his wife alluded to the fact that Jesus is already here.
Right.
In one talk she gave.
Like, it's like, how am I the one getting kicked out of this church, man? All these people. The equation of the Holy Ghost to the Davidic servant is knowledge that was given to me over the time I studied this topic and really drilled down on who the servant could be. Who's writing this? So anyways, but yeah, it's just more and more and more and more stuff. Wow. And they're basically publishing this for the whole world to just go through.
Yeah. I'm guessing they don't care that much about their church membership if they're doing this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, Sam Young gets excommunicated for wanting, little kids not to go into bishops' interviews one-on-one, and these guys are creating new scripture and all kinds of stuff, and they're just chilling.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what we've been saying about Ward Radio too.
I think the church doesn't want to mess with people like this, Joe.
Which is weird because you
got the left side, you got the right side. They're more apt to take somebody out who's kind of over here, feminist, pro LGBTQ. Yeah, get rid of them. But then you got these Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, these guys sort of things going on over here. And you basically have to hurt people, to get kicked out if you're over in this space.
Which is really, I had this conversation with a guy the other day. That guy came on the show on Wednesday service last week. I said, basically,
Was it
what do you
Risto?
understand?
The same guy that was on tonight?
No, this is a guy Porter.
Okay.
Kid who came on the show. Yeah, no, but he. I said, what do you understand to be the? I said, what do you understand to be the reason why Oliver Cowdery was excommunicated? And he's like, didn't he accuse Joseph Smith of something? And I said, yeah, something
He
bad.
did. A dirty, filthy scrape.
That's right. And I said, but also, he was basically accused of apostasy. Basically accused of Joseph Smith of, he's basically accused of apostasy, meaning you can say that is teaching somebody false doctrine. But more importantly, people teach each other false doctrine in church all the time. Don't get kicked out for it. But
Right.
they teach, if you teach false doctrine that causes somebody to leave the church, they kick you out for apostasy. I would know. It's been 12 years now, and that's exactly what I got thrown out for. But what
That's
I
right. You
did
told
was,
them, you're like, oh no, I'm leading people away. And then they're like,
That's
okay,
right.
Joe, we'll kick you out then.
right. Well, and I told you my stake president, he told me, you don't get kicked out for apostasy unless you join another church. And
Right.
I was like, that's not true. I'm like, the September 6th got excommunicated for apostasy. They didn't join another church. I'm like, John DeLynn, as far as I know, got kicked out for apostasy, and he didn't join another church.
No,
And it's like
still hasn't.
they got it. The apostasy is teaching people things that cause them to leave the church. If I don't want David Mitica or anybody else to get excommunicated for apostasy. I can tell you, even when you go spoiling for that fight, it's an emotional experience.
Mhm.
But how is he not doing it? I mean, at this, he's not doing it the way I did it, but
kicked now, right? Because he's been
You would
baptized
think.
into the vicar tonight.
Right.
Religion.
He's
So-
basically committed apostasy twice over, in my assessment, and I got no dog in this fight.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. But then you go through this whole library they have with these books. Oh my gosh, they got the sealed portion.
Oh, I've been wanting to read that for a long time, Joe. Find out.
Oh, you
what's in
haven't
the
read
sealed
it?
portion. No.
Oh, you're joking. No,
I
this
am.
is okay. This is the sealed portion by Chris Nemelka. You ever heard of that? Cultch, man, you gotta brush up on your apostasy, baby.
I guess.
This
I
is
don't know, dude. This is a weird place that I'm not used to going into, Joe.
I don't blame you. Am I even showing you this? Okay.
So what is this?
book-
This someone wrote a whole book saying they had the sealed portion
Yeah.
of the Book of Mormon.
Yes.
So it's
this
just like
guy-
fan fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part two?
Well, no,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy, his name is Chris Nemelka. He published this. He claims that he went to the temple. I'm telling this off the top of my head. Please forgive me if I get any details wrong. He claims he went to the temple and Hiram Smith appeared to him and told
Okay.
him basically that he is him. Again, this Mormon fascination with reincarnation is weird, but like
Oh, he
a
said,
lot of these,
I'm you. You are Hiram Smith.
yes. Yes. And then he got, and nobody really took him seriously. Then he took two piece of like glass, like,
Oh no! Did he
igneous
made his
rock.
own Urim and Thummim?
Yes, sir. And he started receiving revelation, and because he claims, and maybe this is true, I've never really looked up. He claims that Joseph Smith promised that Hiram would be the one to translate the sealed portion of the plates. And so, seeing as he is Hiram, that's a prophecy about him. And this book is the consequence. And
Okay.
it's interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Like it says here in chapter 1, Moroni writes the things revealed to the brother of Jared. He testifies that Jesus Christ came to the Nephites. He exhorts all to have faith and obey the commandments of God. Seems, okay, very Book of Mormon, right?
Oh, they set
As
it
he-
up in the same way. Chapter heading,
Mhm.
all the verses. Yep.
Who knew that they had their own Bruce R. McConkie to write chapter headings
I
back
know.
in the
That's
sealed
who it
portion.
was. Yep.
The brother of Jared meets the father and is overcome by his spirit. He meets his heavenly mother and is commanded to obey the commandments of the Lord.
That's kind of
And
woke.
so
Heavenly
it's
Mother.
basically they he fills in all the things
All the
that
gaps.
that most Mormons, if we're being blunt, most Mormons believe these things, but they're not
Yeah.
really written down anywhere except
Mhm.
for like little clips and pieces of journal discourses and things my mom used to say, things my aunt used to say, things my
Mhm.
uncle used to say, and he just basically takes it all and puts it into the sealed portion. And
Yeah.
then years later, he has this meeting where I don't know if he realized he was being recorded or not. He says to this group of people that he made the whole thing up. That he wrote the whole thing. And that really, it became quite controversial because one of the living descendants of Hiram Smith, well, she was like the last living descendant, who had a plot in the Smith family burial plot, gave up her burial plot to him so that he could be buried with the rest of the Smiths because he was Hiram Smith.
Hiram. Yeah.
And these people are like, wait a minute, you were making this, you're now willing to admit that you made this all up, and now you convinced this woman to give you this very sacred thing. It's like, oh my God, dude, I don't know where he stands on it now, but and this is just my understanding of it. And maybe I got it wrong. Chris Nemelka, come on my show and tell me I got it wrong. But here it is.
Is he still a member of the church?
Oh no, I'm pretty
sure. I would assume probably not. If you start saying you're the reincarnation of Hiram Smith and make a new scripture.
But I mean, what is the difference between that and the rest of this, right? I mean, these guys have the sealed portion in their Cumorah. So
I wonder if they have anything in here about that guy over in England who has the Jeranak plates. Have you heard about that? Steve's had him on his show before.
Steve had him on. Yeah.
He claims to have found records that are about the people of Stonehenge.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. It's a good question.
There's Skousen. I see Skousen there. Of course, there's going to be some Skousen.
Book of Mormon Central, everybody's favorite. Some textual changes for a scholarly study of the Book of Mormon. Royal Skousen, not Cleon. Royal.
No, Royal.
Character.
What a name. What a first name.
Incognito Saint. This is one I don't know about. See, it says, if they shall reject the fullness of my gospel. ... As I wonder how you spell an ellipsis in Reformed Egyptian. I don't know. I need to brush up on my Reformed Egyptian. Restoration
copyright even. All rights reserved. Wow.
You don't want people to steal your intellectual property of the word of God, man. Dedicated to my dyed-in-the-wool, true blue, through and through, Latter-day Saint family and friends, where you are now, I once was, where I am now, you may one day be. Only the cloak of charity will bridge the gap. The word of God. What? Carl Sagan?
He's got Carl Sagan. Wow. You
One of
love
the
Carl
saddest
Sagan.
Dude, you do not steal my Carl Sagan. I dedicated the Korihor argument to Carl Sagan. Let's see. If we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. Dude, what? I mean, did this person?
This sounds like up the Exmo alley right now. Everything we've read so far.
That's like me. I may have actually used that quote in Korihor. Weird. This is weird.
Are you Incognito Saint, Joe?
It's me.
Is this you?
I've been in it all along. It's been me the whole time. Plural marriage. Now I got to see. Page 49. Oh, here we are. Driven into the wilderness. Plural
There it is,
marriage.
Plural marriage.
Many people feel that it is an established fact that Joseph Smith had multiple wives, especially during the Nauvoo era. Yet he publicly denied that and even preached against the practice of polygamy. That's true. It is taught that he introduced some of the brethren in leadership positions to this practice as well, even though it was not openly taught and practiced at the time. So far, so good. This is a hard subject to come to terms with. If Joseph really did practice polygamy, why would he say one thing publicly and do the complete opposite thing privately? Boy, that is a question. Does this make him a liar? And if so, does it make him a terrible person? I don't believe it would make him a terrible person.
Liar, yes. Terrible person, no.
No, I mean, a charlatan? Okay, yeah. A liar? Yeah. A pervert? Yeah. But a terrible person? No. We're all a mixture of good and bad, resulting in actions of right and wrong.
Not that kind of good and bad.
Yeah, dude. It's like, you know, this guy, this Mormon guy, Ted Bundy, people need to look at him with a little bit of nuance. It's a mixture of good and bad. People
This
don't
board
know
member said he was real nice.
And he was a good cook. I mean, you don't hear that. I mean, if you are a good cook and can cook a nice meal for your friends, how bad can you be?
Not too bad, apparently.
Maybe kill a few Mormon girls, but I mean, maybe do bad things to them and then. But I mean, everybody's a mixed bag. Let's see here. If true, these kinds of actions on Joseph's part regarding plural marriage and his handling of the matter were often referred to as lying for the Lord. Well, at least this person knows what the argument is. The argument is
for his loins, more likely.
The argument is that Joseph didn't feel that being upfront about these actions would be beneficial to furthering what he supposedly believed to be the Lord's work. That is not the argument. Maybe they're saying that's the church's argument. The argument is
I've heard some apologists say that like he had to lie because if he had told the truth, it would have put his life in danger, and so that's essentially lying for the Lord.
Heck, for that matter, Nephi was even allowed to break one of the biggest commandments ever: "Thou shalt not kill," with Laban in order to preserve the brass plate. So it's all relative. I mean, they're making a call for moral relativism right here, out of the Book of Mormon.
Are you familiar at all with divine command theory, Joe?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I was watching a video of Alex O'Connor. He was talking with William Lane Craig about this because Alex's thing, he likes to bring up the Israelites being commanded to kill the Amalekites, the men, the women, the children, the animals, and why would a God do that? And most of the people he talks to, they run from it when he brings it up. Oh, that was the Old Testament. Things have changed. But William Lane Craig goes with, no, God didn't do anything wrong because God can't be wrong. Like he could end anyone's life at any time because that's what he can do. So if he commands it, it is inherently not wrong. So he goes, yeah, it's problematic that they killed the kids, but he actually did them a favor because they weren't raised heathens and they got to go be with God. And so that's interesting. I'm actually going to do a show on that later this month. I'm going to have Jim Bennett and Colby Reddish on and maybe see if we can get Steve too to all talk about that and how it relates to Mormonism.
Pulling out the big guns.
Yeah, because essentially with, killing Laban, that's what it is, right?
Well, look, I've mentioned this in my true crime series. This keeps coming up in Mormon true crime. Beth and Magnetic talks about this too. That whenever people committed these awful, heinous crimes, they always bring up Laban and Nephi being commanded by the Spirit to take his life. Lori and Chad Daybell, that came up. It's like, oh, it's a Laban situation. I mean, and it just keeps coming back and coming back. This is like one of the most toxic and dangerous ideas ever introduced.
100%. Yep, 100%. And it always comes back to like, well, how do you know that it's God who's telling you to do this? Because any normal person would hear that and go like, No, I'm not going to kill somebody because a voice tells me to.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the
Mhm.
Bible, they'll say like, well, it was okay for Abraham to almost kill his son because he was told to. And it was okay for the Israelites because they were told to, because that was real God telling them. But these are just crazy people.
Right. As everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see if I can get this video to load. I'm going to try.
I want to see a little bit before we're done.
This
Because
is going
I
to be
think
like
I've only seen Shane. Like he's the only one I know what he looks like. I don't know these other guys, this Latter-day Chad and whoever else.
Oh, they're a trip. But the interesting thing is, okay, so they like late last year, they were producing a lot of content with Chief Medica. And then they stopped after he threatened, as I understand it from watching their show, and I could be wrong. They stopped bringing him on after he threatened to sue that or made some kind of legal threat against that Rise Zion guy. That's my understanding. And when he started at the same time is when he started talking about that there were so I'm trying to do two things at once here.
You're good, dude. I understand how it goes.
That there were that the church had sent him that the church lawyers had sent him a letter. That gets people's attention still. I mean, in case people are curious. Yeah, that gets people's attention.
Curtin McConkie letter in your mailbox?
See, and that's the video I commented on. He had said to me, he had said, I don't know Curtin McConkie. I don't know who this is. What am I supposed to care about the L-DS church? He calls them that because, they're the version that has the main Mormon church is the version that has a dash between latter and day. And I'm like, I find it hard to believe that a lifelong member of the church or even a convert doesn't know that Curtin McConkie and Associates are the general counsel for the Church of Jesus Christ. Yeah. And he's like, well, I guess I'm just an idiot. I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm just saying I find
most
that
people would
shocking.
know. Yeah.
Right. Let me see if this thing even loads. Okay. I say I'm surprised that this loads because this video, you guys, is 8 hours long.
Oh my God. There's Midiga.
That's him. This is Midnight Midiga. This guy over here is Trevor Keys. This guy over here is Latter Day Chad that you had asked about. I mean,
the sunglasses.
And he calls himself Latter Day Chad, but you hear him talk, and we'll play a little bit of this.
Does he not?
We don't have
sound
8
like
hours.
A Chad, Joe?
He sounds pretty incel to me, but that's okay. Whatever. I'm good.
I'll tell you what. He wears the sunglasses better than Luke Hansen at Ward Radio does.
Oh, I guess he does. I never thought of that. I think they've had Latter Day Chad. Hold on. Let me see if I can. There's another section. Oh, they got great art. There's this other guy they brought on for a minute and then basically took off, and he was wearing sunglasses and like a face mask. And they're like, dude, it's already weird enough with Latter Day Chad. Take that stuff off.
Is that Haas? There was this Desnat guy back in the day that would make videos, and he would wear something like that on his face and sunglasses. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it is. Let me see if I can.
Oh, dude, it's a repository. Okay, we got to come up with a better name.
The guy down the bottom left. Let me see if I can get it. Let's see if we can find a better shot of him. This person, I don't know who this person is.
Hey, Sean, I got a question for you.
Appeared to have ever spoken in all of this. Let's see. Maybe again. Yeah, so that guy. Is that your Desnet guy?
No, that's different. Yeah.
He calls himself Morph.
Yeah.
Formed the Constitution, and so they were consultants.
Okay, so this is during one of the times when David Midiga got up. So I was explaining this a little bit. Midiga, they disassociated with him for a while, and said we don't like it when people get aggressive, and and basically they put him in timeout. And then he came back and he started promoting his own channel, which makes more sense to me. But he starts promoting his own channel, but they got a bigger audience, and they've, I don't know how much of this. I don't know where the money is going in this. I still got to figure that out. But so basically, they start bringing him back on, but like they're always like interrupting him when he talks, and his audience comes over to the channel and they hate it. They get into the comments and they're like, "Let Mitiga speak. Shut up. You're not, and it is annoying. So we'll get a sample of this. But basically, this is during one of the breaks where Mitiga got up and walked away, and he's like, "Whatever, I'm out." And so and it was right when they started bringing this guy in.
And when they ran into a problem or wanted to say, "Hey, how do you guys do this?" They would say, "Well, this is how we do it."
Yeah, there was a
lot of cool stuff happened in
those
cool days,
and there's a little more to it. There's a little more to it because it's actually older than that. And so they had revivals, but it was older than that because even today,
that's what he sounds like.
You become a Hoyana.
Yeah,
where you're lifted up.
You never seen Mitiga?
I've seen him. I don't think I've heard him talk before.
Oh yeah, that's Mitiga.
As somebody who's a reflection of goodness in the community. That's what they would call a chief. That's based off of the words of the great peacemaker who walked on the land. When you get your wampum,
what is a wampum?
So your wampum is your authority. You meet somebody and you're going to have about a meetings. We would take our wampums and say, "Where's your permission to be speaking to me?" And they would hold their paper and we'd throw it in the fire and put the fire out, pick our wampums back up and start stringing them together and be like, "Where's your paper?" And they wouldn't have it. I guess we're the senior authority here. So it is what it is. So the great peacemaker, when you get raised up as a Hoyana, they make you repeat his words. It's a 15-minute oath. And they'll stop. They have a translator next to you, and they'll stop you, and you have to say a firm yes or no, and it keeps going. This is ancient. This is 2,000 years old. This is Jesus Christ, and there's a revival that occurred 1,000 years later after a war where they had a revival of that, and they remembered who they were, and they put away their weapons of war, and they said, "Never again, never again." Now they didn't just go see them. That's the thing that history doesn't tell, because why did they go see? They went and saw them all. They saw the Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee. They also went and saw the United Nations of the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the Dawa'a, the Three Fires people, and they saw the Confederacy of the Huron and Wyandot. All three of those are the first three groups that got the very first treaty under the Constitution in 1789, as well as the very first ones in 1784 and 1785. And the reason was before the colonists went to war with their crown, they were concerned about these Indian nations honoring their agreements with the crown. And what do we...
Okay, so I'm just going to warn you ahead of time before I get knocked about misinformation. David's got some good history. And then he's got more. Okay. It's like, there are things you will learn from David that these guys are going to get a little shocked about. Here's the thing. These guys, they're all, as I showed you, they have a whole Discord of basically about how they're planning for the end of the world.
Right.
And basically for the end and the collapse of America. But yet they're mainly, apart from Hook, they're mainly white American boys. And they do love their country. And he gets into some stuff here that's going to rub them a little bit wrong.
We got to do for you not to go to war with us when we go to war with our sovereign. Only the Seneca refused. And they went to war having the back of the King of England. And for that reason, George Washington got garnered the nickname Town Destroyer by murdering every man, woman, and child in 28 of 30 Seneca villages, like, "Don't cross us." But what about the others? So before they had ever done any of this is important.
I just got to say really quick, because that kind of makes me feel bad for what I think about George Washington. Is that a real accurate fact? Like, is that agreed upon, that fact?
Yeah, it's not even a discussable. Go Google it.
It's like total. It's total fact. It's a total
Furthermore, to scare the Seneca warriors. Listen to this. This is real.
Come on, dude.
To scare the Seneca warriors, he ordered his troops to take the skin off their legs and make waterproof leggings and wear those into combat. Those are still in the Smithsonian. They made waterproof leggings out of the skin of Seneca warriors.
Makes
Put that
Brigham
to
Young,
the side.
makes Brigham Young look like a
Yeah.
saint. Like
Hey,
just
hey, George Washington, he's a mixed bag, right? So throw it to the side. What's the point?
I don't
Those
know.
three groups, before it started, those delegates went to the Haudenosaunee Iroquois and they said, you will take the three-house government and you will take the Eagle Standard, Great Law of Peace. They crossed the river and they went and saw the Huron and Wyandotte, who told them the same thing. And they kept going to Sault Ste. Marie, the place of the rapids, the center of the Great Lakes. And we told them the same thing. They are the child and we are the parent.
What does that mean?
Your government and your structure on our land, our treaties we gave you was permission for your state to exist.
My personal
When did you get, well, hold on just
opinion on this. Wait now. My personal opinion about it is I really honestly believe the Haudenosaunee were trying to pave the way for the Americans to join us.
That's right.
So
they were joining the Great Law of Peace.
I want to understand this really quick. So because I do not know this, you're telling me that America, through our government charter or whatever, we got permission from natives to open America?
That's right.
How?
That's not right.
Maybe initially on the coastline, you might have come in and pushed some people out, but you weren't going west.
Oh yeah, that little colonizing bit. Yeah, some people, but the Delaware and the the Huron and the and the Cherokee and but we didn't like them anyways. It's like you see where I talk about that this is problematic for this guy to speak like he talks for indigenous people and for native peoples. It's like maybe you went and pushed some people out, but you exist because we give you permission to exist. I don't know any native person who feels that way about the United States of America.
He sounds very different from Anton Troyer, who you had on.
Yeah. And I'll take Dr. Troyer over this.
When you met with the treaties of 1784 Stanwix in 1785 and the 1789 treaty with the Haudenosaunee and the Huron Wyandotte and the United Nations Free Fires, listen, those nations could have collapsed the U.S. at any moment. When they enacted their 1789 Constitution, they enacted it with the 1789 Northwest Ordinance, which is a reaffirmation of the 1787 Northwest Ordinance, which sanctioned and governed the actions and activities of territories and states in relation to Indian nations. These are the foundation of the Indian Non-Intercourse Acts, which restrain states from having any jurisdiction whatsoever related to the Indian and their nations.
This means for laymen, if I think I'm understanding you right, that as America started expanding its frontier from initial towns on the water, they had to broker deals with the Indians to get more land for expansion.
So at first, check this out. This is crazy stuff. People think T-tax. That's a lie. That's a bunch of settlers dressed up like Indians and tried to blame the Indians for destroying a bunch of goods that was meant for England. Why? Because England had founded the Indian Department.
Wait, what?
Where'd you go, Mitigo? Okay, the tea tax was real. The Boston Tea Party was real. Yes, they did dress like Indians and shouldn't have. And we don't tell the whole story in our history about what was really going on. But that's so basically he's talking about the Boston Tea Party and he's talking about this tea tax. But he's saying things that are ahistorical, while also introducing them to some history that is fair. That, if you read an indigenous people's history of the United States, you get a whole different perspective. And it's like, wow, of course. They really have been lying to us this whole time. But he'll drop in a nugget of, oh yeah, that's true. And it's a shocking truth if you're not ready for it. Yeah, that's true. And it's a shocking truth if you're not ready for it. And then he'll throw in some spiritual significance of that and a theory. And it's like out of left field. It's like, what? But it's like, how do you square? It's all about squaring the circle with these guys. Because here's the thing about David. I don't want him, and I'm not making fun of him for this fact. Okay, David is a Marine, and he served in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of indigenous people in our, within, our coast to coast have served in the service. Thank you, David, for your service. And I can't even imagine how you square that inside one's brain to say, there's this history of the United States and what they did to my people, and then go fight for us. I'm not disrespecting it. I'm respecting it, but I'm just also respecting the journey of how do you make that work inside your head. And so then this history comes out. I'm not saying that's how this happened. I'm just saying I'm fascinated by how he makes this make sense in his mind.
But this is a new.
Now, hold on. Listen to this. Late 1750s.
Yeah.
The colonies, the 14 colonies, the one that's you call in Canada now, and the other 13 were abusing Indian nations that were under treaty with the Crown of England.
Okay.
And so the Crown created the Indian Department to restrain the colonies. This Indian Department then precipitated the 1763 Royal Proclamation, which reaffirmed the declaration of the Covenant Chain Agreement of the late 1600s, as well as the 1701 the Great Peace of Montreal, which was bound upon generations, forever unbroken.
What does that mean?
That means you can't come up and decide you want to change. In any generation following, it is
Who signed that decree?
That was the
Queen Victoria?
The crowns of Europe with the tribal nations in the Americas. That we would share the land, one bowl and one spoon. Brothers live side by side. So 1763, the Crown issues a royal proclamation, says, you guys don't get it. These are nations. You're going to treat them as such. Knock it off. That's why they went to war, because they couldn't get what they want with the Indian. And then once they got it, the Continental Congress figured out, oh my gosh, you can't control these states, even constitutionally. And so they had to put in provisions to start for the first time to restrain the very states that they wanted to be sovereign independently and individually. And they started doing the Indian Non-Intercourse Acts. These were the framework for the federal government to start to supersede and impose over a collection of states into a centralized government. And they used that model with the Indian model in restraining the states.
Was that America and Canada, or was that America?
Canada didn't exist. Now, in 1789, listen to this.
Okay. I don't know if you guys can tell. So this is why I decided to keep playing this, like through this history lesson. If you can't tell, I have the distinct feeling that Mitiga is a little irritated right now because he's been interrupted so many times. I was in the comments live while this was going on going, I never missed the Mormon practice of presiding priesthood authority so much in my life. Just have one person be voice and take freaking turns. This is getting ridiculous. Don't just scream over each other. I get this impression, I don't know this for a fact. I get this impression, Trevor, who's the only person from Zion Media, like, I don't know if they're employees or just partners or co-hosts or friends or whatever. He's really the regular who is conducting this meeting. Shane, I don't know why he isn't in this, and I won't presume. I won't act. But I get this distinct impression that since they started inviting Mitiga to be back on the program, that somebody must have said to them, push back, don't just let him talk, because he'll run away with the show and start saying things that are going to get everybody into trouble. And apparently, I get the distinct impression from some of the people from Zion Media in their comments, they don't like Mitiga anymore. And his people do. So they still have this shared audience, and then it's divided into this audience of people who are his friends and supporters from outside of Zion Media and who support him, and then these people over here that like Zion Media but they don't like Mitiga. And so they kind of have to like navigate this and try to push back on him. And poor Trevor is the guy who's got to do the doing. And as it goes, it gets a little bit
1789 when the United Nations, they listened to me on this. It's not our job to prove we are right. We are right. It's your job.
Listen,
because they'll watch your lack of education.
Your lack of education
because of propaganda that's been fed to you is not our responsibility to acquiesce to.
You're not saying that to me, are you?
Okay. Now listen, no, I'm not. I'm talking to future generations watching.
Okay.
Now, 1789, when the United Nations of the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the
Okay, so you get the idea. Basically, Mitiga basically started to get pretty irritated. As they went on, they start to what's a polite word? They start to fight amongst themselves, and and it just gets to be an even more and more a more and more disorganized mess. They decide to take a potty break. They show clips from a show that they're creating. Let me see. Let me just show you.
Right?
100%. That just happened.
This is
man.
down in Mexico.
That just happened.
Dude,
They're
this
going
is a
through
full-on entrance, probably to residences. Can you see that? It's hard to see inside of it, but I'll bet this goes all the way through the pyramid structure. So, I mean, this is a good example because the guy said that they were all over up there, like hundreds of them. And so then this is probably just an example of what you'd see if you could go in those ones. Yeah, this is awesome.
And they start going through. They start picking apart all the frescoes inside of the structures. What are they doing? They start mimicking with their hands, doing like what the figures inside these Mayan ruins are doing, and then basically insinuating that they're like temple signs and things like this. I mean, that's I'm like, so basically somebody here has money. They're ready to just blow on this apologetics tour, or this apologist tour.
I wonder if they used Go and Do Travel with Greg Manson.
I personally, whenever I go on apostate missions into Mexico and the Holy Land, I always use Go and Do Travel.
Nice.
Not being compensated at all. Those of you who don't know, you gotta watch Quick Media. Is that how you say it? Quick Media?
Quick, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so
it's Shane.
Yeah, that was Shane.
Okay, I thought
That's
so.
in there. Yeah, they call him, like, he had an interview even on Midnight Mormons. They call him the Mormon Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
His actual name is, I always forget, Shane Mormon Wolf of Wall Street. Sorry, I'm gonna get this right once. On my show. It
starts with a
Shane,
L, but I could be wrong.
Baldwin. Shane
Baldwin. Okay. I was thinking Larson for some reason.
They are Heartlanders. Corey brings up a very good point. Yes, these guys pretty much are all Heartlanders. They all believe that the Book of, or they seem to believe the Book of Mormon took place over where Joseph Smith grew up, which would make sense if he found the gold plates in the Hill Cumorah in upstate New York from the Great Lakes area. But then apparently Mitiga started getting invitations or made contact with some indigenous groups down in the Yucatan, in the area of like Palenque and Chichen Itza, and he started touring down there. All of a sudden, they started to incorporate the other theory, the one that most Mormons,
Mesoamerica,
the Mesoamerican theory. So interesting. I have my own interesting history with the Mesoamerica theory, but we'll save that probably for another time. But they're basically starting to incorporate all of it in. And so, anyways, I thought that you'd find this interesting. Basically, it's
bizarre, man. Wow.
Yeah. They become like this apocalyptic cult, frankly. I mean, like, they got their own art. They got a channel just of music of theirs. And I'm like, looking at it, I'm like, okay, it's like horror, but our music's way better.
That's right. Yeah. They don't have a licked cupcake.
No, dude, they ain't got nothing like us. Their music's fine. Cultch, I'm a little bit worried that I'm keeping you up too late, buddy. It's been a while.
Yeah, we've been going for what? Almost 2 hours now.
Yep.
Where are we at? Like 11:35 my time?
Yeah, getting on to midnight here. Sure, I don't want to get in trouble with Mrs. Cultch. I don't want to get in trouble with Mrs. Hall. Did Mrs. Hall have to change her name?
Mrs. Hall will appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, Songs is in the chat. Yeah, Quick is hard to watch. Hi, how's it going? Somebody said hello, Joe. Hello. Yeah, Quick is like, I watch him sometimes just to get angry, and that gets me a good jolt for the day. I've given the total of 1 response to Mattson's comments, because he does say like the most grotesque things, and
Yes.
and it's shocking to me that he can say these things and then say that and then nobody's calling them out as apostate.
Just say we support the brethren, Joe. There's a reason he was in my video.
Yeah, I loved that one, by the way, Cultch. You guys, if you don't follow Cultch, you got to follow Cultch and watch all these little videos. The short videos, he puts a lot of effort into them. I mean, like, he humble brags about it, but like there's some production value in his shorter videos, ranging from the music to the graphics to the effects. I mean, and even the research, and even just writing them. Like, I think maybe that may be our secret shared passion, Cultch, is you and I both love to write lyrics.
We do, yeah. I know you're doing hymns, and I do dumb parody songs. I sent you one today, didn't I?
You did.
Did I send you? Yeah. There's a new one I'm working on that's pretty fun. I'm doing a parody of We Built the City on Rock and Roll, but it's We Built the City on Mind Control, and it's about Provo. It's pretty good. I've only got one verse and a chorus. Yeah.
And isn't it the truth? But it's like, that's the thing. I was surprised that I was surprised that you don't have more experience in video, because it's like video is like one of your strengths. You do some really good graphics and good videos.
I had never done anything. Like, I taught myself how to make videos. And if you've watched me over the years since I started, if you go back and see some of the early ones, it's really basic. It's just like one picture, and then it changes to another, and then it changes to another, and I just string a bunch of pictures together. And now you get, I learned about keyframes and how to do overlays and to make things move, and animations. And so yeah, I know a little bit. And I do it mostly on my phone, just because I've always got my phone and it's easy to do. Yeah, I don't do it on my Mac.
Oh my gosh.
Which probably, if I taught myself, it would be easier to go that route. But I just kind of like doing it on my phone.
Hey, I
told John DeLynn that, because he was telling me he liked my video editing style, and I go, "Oh yeah, John, I just do that on my phone." And he's like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, I'm just sitting here with my phone. I'm pinching. I'm doing this."
Old school video editors, man, that is a little bit hard for us to hear, but
I get it.
These are the times.
I don't know any better. It's how I learned, Joe.
The first time I learned how to do video editing was on a linear edit system. People who know editing, you'd call it a non-linear edit system. Everything people think of as editing now is what we call the non-linear edit system, or NLE. That's because the original one was linear, meaning that you had a tape deck here. You had a tape deck here, and you had a tape deck here, and you had to sync them all up. And they had little electronic dials, and you had the 2 little shuttle wheels, and that thing was hard AF to do, man. It was like that almost, when I was 15 years old, that almost told me, maybe I don't want to go into video. Maybe this is too much. This is too complicated. And then my school bought a PC that could do. That had Adobe Premiere, like the first Adobe Premiere on it.
Yeah.
And it, and I could work all afternoon on a 1-minute commercial made up of pictures and a song from the Air Force One soundtrack. And then I could preview it, but I would have to hit enter for the 60-second clip, for the 60-second video. I have to hit enter, put a sign on the door that said rendering, don't come in, don't unplug, do not turn off. And I would go home at the end of the day. Usually this was like midnight. I had keys to the classroom at school where we had this edit base. And then I would come back at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would be there just in time to see it finish.
That's crazy, dude.
That's with a Pentium 2 processor, my son. Pentium 2.
Wow. Amazing.
Hey, Cultch, I kept you up too late, man. I hope that you'll apologize to Mrs. Hall, and I've had a great
Mrs.
time.
Hall
I'm
won't
sorry
even
that
know, man. She's been snoozing. She won't even know, Joe. No need
she's
to
been out of it.
apologize.
How many kids do you have, Cultch? If you don't mind my asking.
Just
The
one.
one.
Yep.
Man,
The Mormons would
that's
be
smart.
disappointed in me, Joe.
Yeah, I'm proud of you though.
Thanks, man. One's good.
I'm
You know,
big-
we thought about number 2, but that was right when COVID was hitting and the world was getting crazy and kind of threw a wrench in the plans. And we were just kind of happy with one, so we went with that.
yours is young, isn't he? I mean, you guys.
He's a second grade. Mhm.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
You,
weird, dude. I didn't get married until I was 31. So all my siblings were like, my sisters were married at 18, 19, and my brothers were married at like 21, 22. And then I'm just
Well,
like this
yeah.
weird outlier who didn't get married. And then when he did, he married a never Mormon, so that was different too.
Well, your wife's never Mo?
No, yeah, she's never Mormon. Mm-mm.
Oh wow. Oh, I mean, I should explain why that I made such a pleasant sound right there. I'm just happy for
Oh,
you
wow.
that you didn't have to go through the experience of leaving the church and having a spouse who's like, I just don't understand why you're trying to break my heart.
Oh
like
no,
so
not at
many
all.
Mormons, you know.
I think if anything, my wife was probably scared that I was going to go back to church because I was inactive when I met her and we got married. And so she knew I was Mormon, but she didn't know like a Mormon version of me. But she knew my family's very religious. And I think there's always that fear that like, what if he wants to go back? And what if he gets active? Because for her, she's not interested in that like at all. So when I told her that I finally deconstructed a few years ago and was done with it, she was like, all right. She was excited about that.
It was interesting. Wasn't it you I was listening to the other day? You were talking about the experience that so many of us had deconstructing from Mormonism, that you basically went from Mormonism to atheist, basically. Well,
Yeah.
you don't use the term atheist, or do you? Or agnostic, I think.
Agnostic. I think agnostic's probably a little more correct, but I mean, you could put me in the overall atheist camp.
The
An
godless
agnostic
group.
atheist, perhaps. Yeah.
Right. It's like I said, I say oftentimes, because I called myself agnostic for years. I say, listen, atheists are agnostics who don't like long conversations.
Right. Because agnostics have to explain why.
Right.
Why
Well,
they
when
don't know.
I left the church, blah 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 blah. Atheists we're the ones who decided to start saving ourselves time to say it's bullshit. What you think is bullshit. People who believe in things are bullshit. And then
I think it's bullshit, but I can't say 100%.
That'll work. You can go.
Yeah.
You can go with agnostic on that. I don't get atheists who get irritated at other agnostics who'd say agnostic. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I know what that is. We're in the club.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, man, I don't know. My Mormonism was just, I think it was tied more to Joseph Smith than it was to like Jesus or God. Like my belief in them, I think, was more based on him. So when I kind of came to the conclusion that that was all bullshit. I don't know. God and Jesus just kind of went out with it too.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have felt that way pretty much my whole post-Mormon experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I've recently come into this new idea that really, as I look back on my life and look at the experience of other people, I'm seeing a very interesting thing about this. And this is this stages of belief. I don't know if
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked about this. But basically, I think, this was a few years ago, you said. So you were like in your early 30s when you
I
started
officially deconstructed, or when I went
Yeah.
inactive.
When you
I was
deconstructed.
40, like 40, 41.
Okay.
It was about 4 years ago.
I feel like everybody has to come to it at the right stage of their life. But as we start to become responsible for each other, and responsible for kids, responsible for our spouse, things like this, our morality becomes much more focused on justice. And this is an idea I shared with Jacob Hansen in my episode with him. And I'm like, look, you guys do a lot of purity culture, right and wrong, and that's fine. You are where you are. But I just feel like the interesting thing about people who leave the church and people who become agnostic and atheists is that most of them, like many members of the church, are concerned about justice. And how do we teach our children that this is a fair world, knowing it isn't? And then, take a look at the things the church lies about. You know what I'm saying? Did I lose you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, Joe, for a sec. I was having issues with my earbuds, so I wasn't hearing you for a minute. But we're good now. We're good.
That's okay. I was probably sermonizing anyway.
No, now I'm not hearing you again. I don't know. I'm having issues, pal.
I think it's dying. I think you're tired, man. You hear me at all now? let me.
All right, I think I'm out of luck, Joe. So I'm just gonna bail. So you can. I'm gonna let you finish up.
It's good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
Good to hang.
Have a good night.
All right, see you, buddy.
Anyways, I'm like, I don't know if his battery is dying or if he's dying, because you guys, we kept Cultch up really late. And you know me. He'll let me talk, I'll do it. Anyways, this is pretty fun, you guys. I mean, I liked going through the videos, going through all this with you guys. I debated for a while on whether or not I was ever going to do this, but it was just too funny not to share, and also kind of scary and weird, but also, I don't know. Like, I feel for these guys at Zion Media and all these pneumos. I don't know if I'm just getting old or something, but like I'm feeling this need that these people have for a new spiritual experience that, they've exhausted their canon. They're not having what they need out of the church. Hey, Rio, I don't know how many of you guys have been talking at me in the chat. I haven't been looking. I've just been talking to Cultch. So yeah, I mean, I feel bad that I didn't get more of a chance to talk to Cultch, and like we didn't do more with that. But I thought it would just be fun to hang out, and you guys we could get into this. Oh yeah, I remember being a Mormon at the end of my mission, and thinking one day I'm going to be an apostle or something, or like a 70, and I'm going to get the download. I'm going to have a corner conversation with the prophet or with an angel or something, and I'm going to get all the questions. Somebody's going to pull me aside and say, ask me all your questions, and then they're going to give me the good shit, and I'm going to be like the carrier of the good shit. And it's like everywhere I go, people will feel it. Like, and it's like, I don't know what that guy's got, but I think it's the good shit. And I'll just turn and look at them. It is that holy good shit. And then, like, the more conversations I had with people, thanks guys, thanks for being here. The more people came in, the more people I had conversations with, it was like, I know more than most of these people twice my age about like politics and philosophy and about theology. And it's like, I'm not that smart. That means our leaders are pretty dumb. But you can't say that. And so I'm like, gosh, where do I go to find the Mensa Mormons? You know what I'm saying? I mean, where can a guy find a Mormon that read some Thoreau or something, read a little Walden or something? It's like, I gotta find one of these Mormons who's a reader of more than just scripture. Risto, you asked, how do you think of justice and what is justice? The one I brought up with, and the one I probably would say I most believe in with Jacob Hansen on our episode, is Rawlsian justice. And so, so a theory of justice basically comes down to, if you got to have one person who breaks out the pie of what is fair to distribution to everybody in a society, that person shouldn't get to pick which piece of the pie is his. Because otherwise, there's no way to otherwise remove the impetus to give yourself the biggest slice. And so that's where I go from. I'm like, it basically is justice has to be a person doesn't get to decide whether or not it is, doesn't get to decide what everybody else's rights are unless they're apportioning to themselves the same the same equality of rights, and from a position of I'm trying to remember the way that Rawls put it in his book. No relation, just kidding. We're probably related somewhere. We're all related to trees somewhere up the line. But this guy that basically he called it the position, the veiled position. I forget the term he uses, and it's too late to think it up. But yeah, it's like the veil of ignorance or something. The veil of, I forget. But basically, it's to say that the only way you can choose what everybody's going to get is if you don't get to choose the piece that's for you. And it's a good start. I don't think that it's an exhaustive description of justice, but it's pretty good. Cone of silence. I prefer the coughing code, Gene. Oh, geez, Chief, you got to get that looked at. That's pretty nasty. Oh my gosh, is it the end of the show when we start making jokes from Get Smart? Anyways, you guys, I had a great time. I should go check on these kids. I know I cooked for them, but I don't know what the status is. The wife is out of town working from Vegas. And so it's a lot of, is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? And then we got this new puppy, and he's adorable, and he's fun, and he's an asshole. And so it's like a lot of, what did he do now? What did he do now? A little puppy who likes to bite with 3 children who are neurodivergent, and a puppy that's not getting the message that we don't bite. It's a treasure. It's a treasured experience. But my son's been in therapy. This is where I officially ramble. I won't blame you if you bail. My son's been in ABA therapy, my youngest, who is preverbal. And he's starting to use more sound-like words. And it's been a treasured experience watching them develop. I say them because it's been interesting as my youngest has started to express himself. He's never really used terms like he, him, and boy, and because he doesn't really talk. I mean, he has some words. But he's always preferred dresses, and he likes his hair long, and he empathizes more with the female characters in movies. And there's long been this conversation where we went, what if JoJo is a girl and nobody knows? It's like a depressing thought. It's like, well, I want them to express themselves. I don't know. We just got to let them develop into the words that they use. And that when they use the words, we'll use the words that they use. But it's like, but then until then we have to go with, it's not strictly a girl thing to wear a dress. It's not strictly a girl thing to wear longer hair. It's not strictly a girl thing to like the female characters in the movie. We can all do that. And so we don't know. So we go with the tried and true. Let them tell you in their time. So it's been a real interesting. It's going to be an interesting journey. So yeah. I'm sorry that we didn't get more chance to talk, Risto and Flip. I don't know what my plan officially is going to be tomorrow. There's a possibility I'm going up to Salt Lake. My sister, who is kind of a and not quite ordained yet because we're still working on the ordination process, luminary of the Church of Korihor, is coming up from St. George, and bringing blankets for us to take to the unsheltered up in Salt Lake. We are still doing that, and it does make a difference. And but really, the thing they need out there, you guys, is hand warmers. And so, once again, anybody, this is just an appeal. If people know there are hand warmers that we can get out there, we'll be ordering some, placing an order for some. Now that I found out, I had said before that they were, if we order them in bulk, they're $2 a piece. Come to find out, looking into it, I totally misjudged the numbers on that. They're actually closer to $1 a piece. So I'm definitely going to be donating some to Rapture 2025, buying some hand warmers and taking them up with me. So it's going to be really good. Jules, great. I'm so glad. Please be safe, Jules. We need you, not just at the church, but your treasures need you. Please be safe. I said I was going to tell you guys about this, and maybe now's the time, those of you who remain. So I went last week to deliver blankets on a Code Blue night that the church, that the two churches that my friend Carl is running all night movie nights at, one of them couldn't open because there weren't enough volunteers. And so they had opened the St. Mark's Cathedral. They hadn't opened First United Methodist for all night movie night. And I was really concerned that these people were not able to get food, and they were not able to get shelter for the night. I mean, as it is, they can't shelter all of them. I'm going to have to look into the claims by my new friend. Wasn't it Flip that mentioned that to me, that there are always empty beds? And that, okay, I agree that there's a policy problem. This whole thing exists because of a policy problem and how our government spends money. But I don't try to comment on that because I don't comment on politics. It's also a leadership problem. It's about who we have in leadership. But again, that's a political concern. I don't speak to political concerns. My frustration is I look at it and I say, the problem is here that if you get Republicans or you get Democrats, you get the same thing. And they do things differently, yes. And I'm not saying it's exactly the same. I think it would be ignorant to say, and that's not what I'm saying. It's just that there's some problems that permanence no matter who's in charge. And that speaks to me of a larger systemic problem. And I admit that what we're doing is not perfect. And I've said before, if I had the money, we would buy these Mormon church houses and we'd make them 24-hour libraries. I should mention this. I wasn't planning to talk about this. I was planning to talk about this more on Sunday during our upcoming sermon, Will a Man Rob God? About 7 months ago, no, a little longer than 7 months ago, last year, a church in Castle Rock, Colorado, which I'm pretty sure is the place I was born, believe it or not. I don't know where I was born. It's in the Denver area. And so I just tell people I'm from Denver. This church set out a couple of old busted up RVs in their back parking lot and started letting unsheltered people stay there. And it was interesting. Yeah, was it Castle Rock? My flesh and blood sister and chosen family sibling, Nikki, is here. Nikki, shouldn't you be resting? Aren't you going to come up here? Anyway, so yeah. Yeah. And so this church down there, they started sheltering unsheltered people in RVs in their parking lot. Good thing, of course, until the city got after them about it. Okay, be safe out there. Be safe, my sibling. I can't lose you now. And so so the city sued them, saying, this breaks with zoning laws. And so the church apparently has some money. They sued them back. And then they took it all the way up to federal court, and a federal judge determined that this relatively new law, a federal law, states that if a church has property and uses it to house institutionalized persons, however that's defined, because it is their mandate as part of their religion to do it, no zoning laws can keep them from doing it. I mean, think about that for a minute. All these churches for sale, and if the church that owns one of those churches, one of those buildings, has a mandate to shelter people, the city can't stop them from doing it. In spite of the fact that the people of Castle Rock are all up in arms about these people. I watch these interviews, these people, it's enough to make you spit nails. And they start talking, I just don't see that that's fair. What about, yeah, they're like, we understand that that's their property and they have a right to use their property, but this is our neighborhood. What about my rights? And it's like, what rights? You have your rights to how a church uses their property? Do you people believe in private property or don't you? Do you people believe in separation of church and state or don't you? It's interesting how the nuts and bolts of it come down to, start to break out a little bit differently when you start talking about home prices. You start talking about people's prejudices against unsheltered people. I've talked to a lot of these people, man. And let me tell you, it's a good cure. They say that like a cure for hate and prejudice is to travel. Yeah, go out and wrap some people in some blankets. It'll change your head around. Now, in more ways than you would expect. It's not just that I love them more, because I do feel like I've developed more love for people since I started doing this. But you also get to see where the systemic problems are. Not just in our society, but in the choices that people make and in the things that happen without their choice. And, it's shocking talking to people and realizing this person has a job. They just don't have a place to live right now. Or they have a place to live part of the time. They have family and they're making money, but all their money is going to their kids, is going to their spouse, their ex or something, And so it's like, this is a much more complicated situation. And yet you talk to people about it, and the more I talk to people about it, the more that everybody seems to me to assume the same storyline for every person who's unsheltered. And I'm like, and maybe people are lying to me. I don't know why, other than to try and convince me to give them money, but I don't know why. Once I make it clear to you, I don't have any money to give you. I don't carry cash on me. And especially don't while I go out and do this. Because I went out during a cold snap last week and it was a code blue. And I said, this time I'm not going to, I was going to volunteer at St. Mark's. And I said, no, I'm going to go out to the streets. I'm going to go out to the people who are out there who are freezing, because it was so cold. It was so cold, you guys. And I'm going to make food, and I'm going to take hot food to the people on the street. So I got some of those oven pizzas, Red Baron pepperoni pizzas. My son loves them. So, and they're good. I'm just going to say it. Red Baron pepperoni pizzas. I get why my kids all love it. All my kids love these pizzas, and I get it. They're good pizzas. I like to burn them a little bit, singe, so the pepperonis are a little bit singed. That's when it's perfect. And I go to get these oven pizzas. I cook them. I wrap them all in tin foil, 2 slices a piece. And then I got a big jug of coffee, because I know that these people, they're all moving around all night most of the time, because they're trying to keep from being harassed by the police. And so I made this big jug of coffee, it's like, and heated it up and got nice hot coffee. Mistake. Never do that again. Nobody wanted coffee. They all wanted hot cocoa. Nobody wanted coffee. I'm like, okay, I get it. Something tastier. I'm like, it has sweetener in it. I put some caramel macchiato in it, and They wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Okay. So I did not get one person to take coffee. I think I did get one guy. I think I got one guy to take coffee. So, but the pizza, it was gone. Yeah. So food, hot food, and blankets. I had Laura's blankets. You know, Laura is our person who's been collecting most of our blankets. And I got rid of all of them in an hour. But the last stretch, I had to go find people. I had approached all the people in front of St. Mark's, and pretty much all the people in downtown over by the temple. So everybody that I could find down there. So I went over to Liberty Park because I knew there were people there at Liberty Park. And I knew that immigration was trolling around. I don't want to be an alarmist, and I'm not trying to make a political statement. Okay? I grew up brown in Arizona. I know what it's like to have somebody pull you aside and start questioning your citizenship. And my passport, for years, I carried my birth certificate in the glove compartment of my car so that I could prove that I was born in this country, even though I didn't remember exactly which town it was. I knew it was near Denver. And I had to use it. And then I got a passport for work. I had to go to Mexico, ironically, for a job. And then I was like, oh, this is much more convenient. And I started carrying my passport in my pocket everywhere I went for years after SB 1070 was passed in Arizona. I'm not making a political comment. I'm just saying I have kids and I can't spend a week or two in a detention center complaining about, can they keep us this long? They can keep you as long as they want. But I'll call my attorney. Good luck. And it's like, it's extremely difficult. So when I found out that ICE had a truck down by Liberty Park, I went, they're just going to start deporting undocumented people, or not undocumented people. They're just going to start deporting unsheltered people. They don't care whether they're undocumented or not. So I'm like, crap. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but look, we've seen this before. And then my buddy Carl, who runs these movie nights, he's talking about how the police are down at Liberty Park abating. And the city has contracted with this organization. Apparently, I didn't know this. Carl made me aware of this. Apparently, there's this company that hires unsheltered people and gives them money, so great, to go and abate the camps of the other unsheltered, turn them against each other. And like, if somebody's going to give you money, I mean, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, I hate everything about that. I mean, what? So I decided to go down there, and sure enough, Liberty Park, there's 2 patrol vehicles sitting there and not a soul. I'm like, wow, they really did. They cleaned out the park. Nobody there. Driving down the street there, was that 2nd South, I want to say, and saw this corner. They were all across the street. People just sitting there. And with the 2 patrol vehicles standing there, and the Salt Lake's finest, thank you for your service, good people, standing there just kind of talking and looking at them. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And I still had blankets left. I was like, and I tell you, fellowship, I took a moment where I said, Joe, go home. Just go home. I promised everybody. We have this chat on Facebook with all of the directors of the Church of Korihor and some of my trusted, some people that I trust, like Nikki, and who give me good feedback on things. And a lot of the good decisions that get made, don't credit them to me. I ask these people. They are my counsel. And I had told them, I will be safe. Don't worry about me. I know how to handle myself. And this was the first moment where I went, Do I? I parked. I got out blankets. And I went down to this corner. And I said, I'm going to stay where it's lit. I'm going to keep my phone ready to record in case the police stop me. And for whatever reason, police left me alone. So I was glad about that. No sign of ice. Glad about that. So relatively safe. And then two guys out there. They weren't indigenous. I read the word indigenous from Jules' comment. That's why I said that. I started to say that. They weren't indigenous. Two gentlemen started yelling racial slurs at each other. And I'm sitting there handing out blankets. I'm like, okay, guys, can anybody use a blanket here? And I'm handing out blankets. And they started threatening each other with the police standing right there. And I'm like, okay, friends, hold on. Whoa. Can you wait? Sorry, I'm just giving out blankets. Let me just give my blankets and then whatever this is. And they start throwing hands. And I'm like, the fuck, people, come on. Don't. I'm like, nope, I'm not. I like look over and yeah, sure enough, the police are there watching the whole thing. I'm like, nope. See it. I'm out. And more or less booked it back to my car. Then come to find out I had more blankets. And I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot about these. And then I turned around and the police were gone. And I went, well, they've been there this whole time. I mean, are they after me? I mean, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, do I go ahead? And so I did. I took the blankets, and it was the most dangerous thing I did. I'm hoping that I could reassure people with this story. Like, that's as dangerous as it got. That's probably the most dangerous thing I've experienced so far doing this. And nobody threw me down. Nobody hit me. Nobody pulled a weapon on me. A couple guys started throwing swear words at each other and threatening to hurt each other. I went back with some blankets, and they both apologized to me. They're like, "We're sorry, man." And it's like, it's this right here. And it's like, I'm like, no. Thank you for your apology. Thank you. That's fine. I just care that you're cold. And started handing out blankets. And then I handed out all the blankets, got in the car, and believe you me, I went home. But the whole time that I was down there, probably, if I'm not mistaken, I got down there at like 10. No, I left here at 10, and I started back home crack of midnight. So I mean, it was barely there an hour, and I gave out. Oh, I have it on the receipt. It was like 10 pizzas, and all of our blankets, except for the new ones that I've been making. I haven't been handing out the new blankets from the big ream, or the big roll of fabric that we ordered, because people have been needing like thick blankets out there, and these blankets are not that thick. So I've been handing out blankets as long as people have been giving them to me, the thicker blankets. Like, people have been giving us like quilts and stuff, and I'm super grateful for that. But now it's starting to warm up a little bit, and we haven't had a code blue in a few days. So I'm going to go ahead, and we have basically 15 blankets worth of fabric. I've already cut the first blanket. I really got to bring that blanket in here. I've cut the first blanket, and it's good. You know, it could be better. And so, you know, like, it'll keep you warm, and it'll keep the snow off of you. And so that's something. But the thing is, people have really been asking me, do you have any thicker ones? The two questions are, do you have any bigger ones? Because people huddle together as couples. There's a lot of couples out there. And so they'll huddle together. These blankets will be best for those people because they do reflect your body heat well. But they don't really, and they do protect from the wind chill. but they don't. But they're not snuggly. I don't know how else to put it. they're not the kind that like you instantly feel it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a like a quilt, like a comforter. And so I'll actually have people tell me they don't want a blanket if it's not like a comforter because they already do have one. And so you kind of have to dig at this point. I kind of have to dig through the city and find people who just have no blankets at all, which tells me we're doing the work, you guys. Like at first when I started, every person said yes and didn't have a blanket. Now I'm out there. I should mention this. I'm out there in Salt Lake City and I'm seeing blankets I gave out a couple of weeks ago. And they're not always on the same person. So it's like, crap, you guys, we're actually making a difference here. I haven't started giving blankets to the warming centers because I haven't started at the car camps yet. So our plan right now is to start delivering these polar fleece blankets to car camps and keep an eye on downtown Salt Lake and start reaching out into other cities in northern Utah, and also taking hand warmers. Again, number one thing people are saying that will save their life on the streets is those hand warmers, the 18-hour hot hands. So that's the planet current. I think we are going to reach our goal of 300 blankets gathered by the end of February at the rate we're gathering them now, which is amazing. I don't think we're going to reach our goal of 300 blankets manufactured from polar fleece from money donated to Rapture 2025, maybe at all. And that's concerning. But I said we would fail and we would learn. This is what I'm learning. It's apparently a lot. I didn't expect it to be so easy to get people to give up blankets. And I'll know after I confirm this, because we've lucked out that we got Laura and now Nikki, who are gathering blankets from generous souls around them, and people are opening their hearts. This has really been inspiring. Yeah. So how many are we at? We're basically right now, I have the tally not here in front of me, but we're basically at 100 blankets gathered and distributed so far, and 15 that we've made. Out of I have a little bit of money still that's been donated over the course of the last week. We got about $100 in the account from donations. I'm going to use that to buy some more materials so we can make some more. Oh, you're bringing 35 blankets tomorrow, Nikki? We're going to do this. We're doing this work, man. So I think we're going to make our goal 600 blankets gathered or manufactured. And we're going to make a goal to get as many of these 18-hour hot hands out to people as possible, because they save them for the nights when it's really cold. And then they hunker down under a blanket and they crack it open and go to sleep with it, basically. And that out there, I've talked to more than one person who told me, I'm certain that hot hand saved my life. So that's what I say we do. I'll know for sure that I feel confident with this plan after we do this. This is the new plan and innovation. And I think it'll make good, fun content for those of you who love to watch what we're doing here at the Church of Horror. And I know we're going on 3 hours now. I'm going to start going door to door and asking Mormons to give up their blankets. And it kind of fills my heart with glee. Because I'm going to put on, my plan at this point is to put on my Korihor outfit and my stole and everything, and just start knocking on the doors and knocking on doors and saying, I'm Joe from the Church of Korihor. Do you have any clean blankets I can take to the unsheltered, and see how many people will do it? If I get enough people going, who? I don't care, whatever. Yeah, I got blankets. And if we can gather blankets, you guys, this is like a whole new wrinkle. Rather than raising funds to manufacture blankets, I do think we'll still need to raise funds because, like, is going on down there in Albuquerque with Jules' mission down there. Again, we're going to ordain all these people as soon as we have an ordination to do. But Jules' mission down there, she's putting beanies on people, and she's giving them gloves that have the swipe finger. And I mean, that's really going. Like, she's shared with me the footage of her going out there doing it. People are like, yeah, I'll take it. And she's really doing good work down there. Believe it or not, they're just talking to Jules. There appear to be nights where it gets colder in Albuquerque than it does here in Salt Lake. I mean, it gets cold out there. And she finds people who are, they're quite hard up for help. So, I mean, we're learning some interesting things about this. Probably, though, the thing I'm doing the most thinking about lately, and this is what we're going to talk about on Sunday, is how the institutional problem that we have, the systemic problem that we have, starts not with people who are impoverished, but people who are wealthy and who control all of these and control our housing market. And the plain fact of the matter is, and this is an economic issue, not a political one, is that we live in a system where people see 7 degrees. That's freaking cold, man. If the wind blows on that 7 degrees, holy crap. We have a system where, I'm trying to not be political. When I was growing up, we had it drilled into our heads that the healthy economy that we live in, best and most powerful economy in the world, is one where everybody can accomplish the dream that everyone in the world has of becoming a homeowner. And if you become a homeowner, it's like you have your own bank. There was a gentleman named Alan Greenspan, never mind who he was, who used to say that if you have a home, you have your own bank, meaning that you had collateral, that you had if you have real estate. That was the first step to generational wealth. We have this society now that has completely abandoned that, for better or for worse. Is that because nobody out here wants to buy a home? As a person who has wanted to buy a home for a long time and is not able to, in spite of the fact that I make a 6-figure income between me and Molly, we make a pretty decent 6-figure income. But yet we struggle every month, like most of you out there. I maybe some of you out there are not struggling and you're doing really well. In that case, I'm very happy for you. I sincerely am. But I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but with the price of groceries has been going up since the big C and all until now. And while some things will fluctuate here and there, generally it's not coming back down. Inflation, we're sold on this idea that inflation is entirely driven by supply and demand, and it's just not true. It's just not true. And again, it's not a political comment. It's an economic one. But if we make 1% more, the prices go up 2%, and it's not a healthy economy. It's not working out. And part of the reason why is because there are people who know that if there is a home ownership economics in this country, that diminishes opportunity to rent. And I'm not saying that they're bad people. They're just people trying to make money. And that's as far and as complicated as it goes. You see an opportunity to make money, you take an opportunity to make money. It's a capitalist society. But it's a system that's not healthy. And it's harder and harder now to buy a home. And the only solution that we're getting from gods and governments is they need to build more houses. Somebody out there, Google for me, how many empty houses are there in America? Let me save you the Google. It's 17 million. Then Google how many unsheltered people are there. It's not a true statistic. It's a lot more than that probably, and nobody knows, but it's around 700,000. Now, maybe it has to do with how these homes are distributed. Maybe it has to do with the fact that at least some percentage of our population believes that you're not comfortable unless you have 2 or 3 houses. Maybe it's because, fill in the blank. There's all kinds of reasons, and I'm sure it's a very complicated issue, and I don't speak to the policies anyway. But I'm looking at it and saying, this has been done before, where housing can be made more affordable when we shift our thinking about what a home is. And I think some of us have been terrified of that because, fill in reason A, B, C here. And I'm looking at it thinking, I've been doing some reading over the course of the last few years. I got really big into the intentional community or commune side. And what I learned from doing research into intentional communities is that generally they don't work. Usually intentional communities, which is just another way of saying good commune, any kind of system, there you go, 16 million empty homes. And so it's any kind of community where it's basically a neighborhood, usually yurts or something, or cabins or something like that, where you choose who your neighbors are. That's the idea of intentional community. You intended to be a community. And Joseph Smith did this with Mormonism. Hippies do it all the time. Every hippie I know, every old hippie I know, and I know quite a few, has tried communal living. And it always ends in tears. But then there's this other system. And basically at the larger system, it's called non-market housing. And I've been doing some reading about this for a while. And I'm going to start doing a little more research on Church for Atheists about how we can talk about the shelter crisis that we're going through in this country, in this community, in this society. Excuse me. This is not a political question. It really isn't. It has nothing to do with getting laws passed. It has nothing to do with getting people elected. In fact, really what this is all about is we're sick of waiting for people who got elected to make laws or make policy decisions that are going to actually make a change. We're tired of waiting on them. If they're so good at this, why aren't they doing it? And so I'm sitting here going, we made a commitment as the Church of Korihor to make painful lives into lives worth living. And how are we going to do that with people paying $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment? $2,000 a month? Are you freaking kidding me? That's here in Utah. I see posts in our Utah County pages here on Facebook of people saying, "Oh, I have a family of 5. We're looking for a 2-bedroom apartment." You're going to put a family of 5 in 2 bedrooms? We can afford $2,000 a month but no more. Please, if anybody can help us. Desperate. We think of unsheltering as people. We tend as a society, and I've been guilty of this in the past, of thinking of unsheltered people as being people who have no job, no work, no income, likely have, addiction and mental health issues of all kinds. And that's an unfortunate thing. They had a bad step somewhere in life, and then they, either they got lazy or they got disabled or something else happened to them, and now they're in a rut and they need to get, and maybe they can get out, but maybe they don't. Think about what those words mean. Maybe they don't. What are we saying? And I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing more and more people saying, it's not that we don't have jobs. It's not that we don't make good money. It's that the pricing is so overinflated. And when you've got 16 million homes out there sitting there empty, you can't tell me it's because we don't have enough houses. Now, maybe that's part of the problem. I've done some readings about like this law that they're trying to get passed in Washington. They've been trying for years to get this new law passed that basically it's a pretty clever idea. I'm not endorsing it because I don't think it'll ever happen. But they've got this law that they've been trying to put on the books in Washington, D.C. in Congress. It's sponsored by Republicans and Democrats in both houses of Congress. And President Biden talked about it. Who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. And this law says basically, if you are a real estate developer and you can move into a town, and instead of just buying property in underdeveloped properties, urban areas near where people are likely to find work, rather than just buying them and owning them and then turning them into Abercrombie and Fitch and Starbucks or whatever, keep them as houses, but renovate them. Basically, all the expenses that you put into developing the property to make it safe and bring it up to code and make it a livable property for somebody to be able to buy at a reasonable price, the government will just basically let you write off whatever you put onto it in taxes, on your taxes. And there you go. And it's like, this was part of the plan. This was the Democrats' plan, basically. It was really a bipartisan plan. I'm just describing the plan. I'm not endorsing it. Frankly, I don't endorse anything. And that's not just in the name of the church. Frankly, I'm so frustrated right now with the whole matter. I don't endorse anything personally. I really don't. And, but that was the one plan, to create more homes in urban areas. I get the logic of it, and apparently there's research to support it. Then there's a plan that says, well, no, we just got to go out there and build more new homes. And maybe these plans would work. They've had decades to make this thing work. And frankly, at this point, I'm just saying, look, let's hope. I wish them all the best in policymakers. Please do something great and wonderful. You know, if that's President Trump and the MAGA Republicans, and they've got a plan that will truly make this great again, God be with you. I hope your God is real and that you make it work. I really do hope you make it work. I don't have much hope that there is a God. I have no hope there's a God. Most of my hope is in that there isn't, because I'm really in shit trouble if it turns out there is. But then, and if there comes to be a bipartisan solution that they can work with Democrats and make something work, good luck to them. Me personally, I'm sick of waiting. I say we start organizing to come up with a better plan and do for ourselves, and let all of this stuff that's been dividing our people into these. There are all kinds of policy suggestions, and some of them I like. I don't even mention the ones I like. This is the ones I'm just mentioning the ones they have that are likely to get passed. But I'm looking at this and I'm going, you know, this has been done before, and there's a model to make it happen. And I think that we can set aside the divisive language and the politics and say, this isn't about winning and losing. This isn't about, this isn't about gods and governments. This is about people. And this is about how we can make life more affordable here and do for ourselves, not just in housing, but in healthcare and in food and in education, which are the things that we are in a real crisis as a people. And so I'm hoping to get some guests on to talk about what some solutions to this will look like. If you guys know somebody, please, contact me and let me know. You can go to corehor.org. You can use the contact form. Those of you who are friends with me on Facebook, you know that I do respond on Facebook, probably more than I should. And I want to talk to them. I have reached out to a few different experts on how to develop these solutions about coming on the show and starting to talk to us about how we can organize to make these solutions possible. I really do think that we can actually make a change by just taking this into our own hands and deciding that we're just going to do for ourselves. And the Church of Korihor wants to be a part of that. At least I do. And so as long as I'm in charge, we're going to do it. Yeah. Oh, man. Lisa, I didn't know that. That sucks. Yeah. Look, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, the people I know who are best off in our society right now, they're not comfortable by any stretch of the imagination, are people who inherited a home. You inherit a house. You don't have to pay mortgage or rent. I can't imagine what that must be like, because the rest of us, I don't know if you guys, I've been a renter all my life. And every month I panic because we went to a month-to-month lease 2 years ago. I was fortunate when last year my landlord. I should introduce my landlord to my lawyer. I'm lucky that I work for a lawyer, so I have one. My landlord told me, Joe, I hate to do this to you, but I can get a lot more for your house, for that house, if I go out and put it back on the market. I'm raising your rent to $100 a month. And it was just $100 a month. And I would so like this, I have a townhome I rent in Utah County. We pay $1,500 a month. It's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house with a little tiny backyard. And this place, compared to what most people I know in this area are living in, it's like a mansion. It feels tiny to me, but it's like a mansion. And it's great. And we struggle with it every month because we also have medical and dental expenses. And we have 3 kids, and we have ABA therapy, and we have medication, and we have groceries. But of all those, the thing that really just throws me for a loop is how much more we spend on groceries and on medical. And it's like, you don't have to have a big medical crisis like cancer or something to go, yeah, we're fortunate that our insurance covers ABA therapy. So, and I have parents who cover the copay. And if they threw that back on us, we'd make it work, but I don't know really how. And which would suck, because JoJo's getting a lot out of his ABA therapy. I resisted ABA therapy for a long time because we found out some of the things that they do in this therapy. But the clinic that we found, they seem to be pretty good. They seem to be on top of things, and JoJo's showing improvement. So it's like, what do? Do you stop? I mean, no. We're fortunate that we could go to parents and say, we think JoJo will get a lot out of this. Do you think you could help us out? But how many people out there don't have that luxury? That's a real privilege that I have. And it's not like I come from big money, folks. I mean, my wife loves to tell me that she's from Westwood area. She grew up in Westwood, but the irony being, her parents are rich compared to mine now. They own all this real estate in Arizona. They own all these rental properties. And my in-laws, man, they just went on a mission for the Mormon church. They're just living off the dough from rents. And it's like, and so it's like, so we started hitting them up for help. It's like, I don't know if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. That's a lie. I do know that you do. It's like eggs. People bitching about the price of eggs. Eggs, fuck that noise. Talk about the price of freaking cereal. Talk about the price of, meat. Basics. We're not talking about luxury items here. We're talking, well, what we thought was luxury. Now there's people out there making content on the internet about people don't realize that good meat is a luxury item. It has been all throughout human history. And you maybe we just have to learn how to live without it. And maybe that's what we have to do. Maybe we've got to go vegetarian, which honestly I've been thinking about for a while, because it actually makes a lot of sense to me ethically. It makes a lot of sense to me health-wise. It's just like, what a transition to have to make. We've tried a few times, and it's rough, man. That's not an easy thing to do. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, Lisa, you were talking about it. I hope your husband's okay. Oh my gosh. Guys, Lisa's husband had a really bad accident, wasn't it? And oh my gosh, I was really worried. I hope that you're well. Keep us updated on what's going on out there. Anyways, I'm just babbling at this point, friends. It's been 3 hours officially. I do have to go check on these kids. I love your faces. And thank you to Cultch for being on the program today. I hope that you guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed it in case I get sued later. But I don't think I'm gonna. I think we're gonna be okay. But this is my one last ditch appeal to Zion Media and Mitiga and all you guys out there who might sue me. Have pity on a poor guy. But if you're gonna send me a letter, make it a cease and desist, and then we'll talk. But I have lawyers. I'm just teasing. I don't have lawyers. I have an employer who's a lawyer. That doesn't mean he'll help me. But I'm not close to Radio Free Mormon, but I know Radio Free Mormon. I'm not saying sue me. I'm saying don't. I'll see you tomorrow, Nikki. Thanks a lot. And hey, guys, thanks for sticking with us to the end. I hope that you were entertained. Go check out Zion Media. Go watch their stuff. It's amusing. It really is. All right, fellowship. Till next time, flash bright.